Akala Cham Yahava, Shalom Yashdel, Kwam Yashdel, Tida, Babakasha. Thanks for being on with us. We appreciate you. Taking some time out to come in front of you one more again and be able to speak on this word. Let's see. Yeah. And speak on this word a little bit. We appreciate you. Thank you so much for your patience as we're setting up. All right. We got people on multiple platforms. That's all right. Thank you for being on with us. Once again, we appreciate you. Out here outside, figured we go ahead and put a little bit of the ambiance. Some people would say they don't like the way it looks. I like the way it looks. But we thank you guys for being on today. We appreciate you. We've been talking a lot about community. And we've been in this series today, The System is Sus. And speaking a lot on a lot of different things pertaining to the system being sus. And today, what we're going to talk about today is we have not mastered ourselves. All right. Shalom. Barak Allah Sham Yachava. Kofi, Halit of Servants of Christ, Mashalom Khe. Hello, everybody. I'm Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servants of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. And we're appreciative of your presence here today with us, whether you join us on YouTube or TikTok. Today, we don't have as many platforms up, but those who are on here, we appreciate you. We already started making sure that the information has been put out as far as the day of Pentecost. And we have that information up on YouTube already. It will be on all the TikTok channels. It will be on Facebook. It will be on Instagram. It will be on Twitter. Right now, the only place that it is up right now, though, is on YouTube. And on YouTube, it does have the Zoom link. So you should be able to click on YouTube to be able to see the link, see all that stuff. And we praise y'all for that being there. We will try to also email out to everybody the actual program as well. All right. And to the ministerial staff, first, you guys will receive it because I know you guys have been waiting, champing at the bit. You've been told things that will happen, but you don't know the form or the order of service, so to speak. So we'll make sure that that's going to be there for you guys. All right. But we thank you guys for being on. How's everybody doing? Hello, shalom. Welcome. We give all honor and praise once again to the Most High. We give all praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. How you doing, Sister Joy? How you doing, MIT Samaya Lorraine? Demaria, sure you can go ahead and get with the question. I'm going to finish this up real quick, though, and then we're going to get started. But feel free to go ahead and ask away. How you doing, Sister Nadine? How you doing, Brother Allen? How you doing, Cheryls? How are you doing, AJ? Sorry, I missed AJ. How you doing, Doreen? And by the way, if you want to get in contact with us, you can look on our. If you're on YouTube, you can just look in the. You can literally just look in the description of the video. If you're on TikTok, you can look on our main TikTok page, click on the link tree there, and then make sure that you email or text us. We'll get more information on things that we do outside of just the live sessions, and we'd love to be able to work with you. I'm on. But let me see something real quick. Sorry. What was that? Oh, yeah. I'm going to make sure that we share this real quick to make sure that even though we're not on Facebook today, Facebook family can, in fact, find this. If they're looking for us, praise y'all. All righty. But, yeah, so you can go ahead and look in those different places. And, you can look there to be able to get in touch with us and get the information as well. I know some people say, well, I want to go ahead and get to you through the DMs. I try my best to do DMs, but I get so many DMs on top of messages, emails, things like that I'm already receiving and stuff I'm still trying to catch up on all the time. Just letting you know I might not be able to reach out to you or reach back to you that easily through that. But if you want to try that, we can sure feel free to do that as well. But how's everybody doing once again? Hello to Sister Renee, Sister Nadine, Mystical Monique, everybody who's on here, everybody. Sunny days. How you doing? Oh, had it right. There's Alan. There's two Allens then. Okay, two Allens on here. How you doing, Sage? Alrighty, Chrissy. I'm sorry. Somebody said they had a question. Damara, you said you had a question. Did you give the question? Did I miss it? How you doing, Mrs. Rhonda? Knuckle face. How you doing? Oh wow, still got residue on my face. Truth. How you doing? Was it Oba Chief Skills? All right. So real quick, if you have the question, so let's go ahead and get the question real quick. And then we're going to jump right in today. We're continuing the series, The System is Sus. And today when we talk about the system is sus, we're going to talk specifically about, we want to talk specifically about we have not mastered ourselves. Before we get into that, though, I haven't added you yet. Okay. Okay, well, I had the other, it pops up. Oh, okay, yeah, it pops up as a big ock. So, okay. It's interesting. It's going back and forth. I got two. It looks like it's two of you on. All right. How you doing, Brother Jermaine? You said you want to have logical conversation. Once again, I don't mind logical conversations. By the way, thank you to the moderators. I bow down. You can ask or say whatever you want, as long as you treat people correctly as far as being human beings. we can talk however you want to talk. But once again, what is the, somebody had a specific question and then they didn't put it on. At least I didn't see it. So I don't know. Well, anyways, I'm not sure what to do with that. But yeah, so okay, what's the question? You said, why does the biblical word God? Why does the biblical word God? You mean, what is the biblical word God? Where does it come from? Well, God is something that somebody, when they rewrote the Bible into English or into Latin or even into Greek, well, more so kind of Latin, and then especially in English, since English is a Germanic language, even though English is mixed with more French than Germanic languages and other African or Moorish languages and things like that. But the word God is where you get the word good from. God day, guten Tag, good speed, Godspeed, goodbye is God be with ye, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And God is what Germanic people use to confirm their versions of spirits or deities or gods, if you will, that they worship. In other cultures, God is not used, right? God is not a Kemetic term. In Kemet, they have netchers, and netchers don't work the same that Greek gods do, nor do they work the same that deities do, even though some deities work similar because they copied off of Kemet, just like some netchers that Kemet has copied off of the spirits of Cush because Cush came first. But it's not the same as Alacham, it's not the same as Allah, it's not the same as El versus Al. So yeah, when you say God, you're talking about something different, depending on what context you're talking about. How you doing, Brother Anthony? You said it was yours. You asked what platform did the host sovereignty classes on. We do that on Zoom. Yeah, we do that on Zoom. Yeah, so we do that on Zoom. So yeah, so here, and look, we don't have any right to judge anybody's salvation or anything. So if somebody still use the term God, you know, feel free to use that whatever you want. You said, could you be living bacteria on the planet? I don't know if you're the person that asked about that or mentioned that yesterday. Um, I don't believe so, because I believe us to be human beings. I get the context that some people look at as though, as far as they're talking about the cult or the culture, right? The bacteria culture, the way it works can be somewhat similar to the way civilizations work, but there's definitely differences of how we work and things like that. But also human beings talking about how we might feed off of others. But I mean, there's bacteria that lives inside of me, so you can say that I become one with certain bacteria and I should flush out other bacteria, but I wouldn't go to that point of saying that we're bacteria. Aman. How you doing? Hey, Shalom. Okay, how you doing, Minister Morel, Sister Maria, everybody who's coming on, appreciate you. Right, appreciate you. So let's get into today. Today, what in this system is sus. We're talking about that we have not mastered ourselves. Right? We have not mastered ourselves. We have not mastered ourselves. I got to get into this, at least start this, right? For today, we have not mastered ourselves, and this becomes problematic. When you have not mastered yourself, everybody's allowed to tell you about who you are. And now when we say mastered ourselves, I mean this very specifically. We have to have the right context. How you doing, Splash? We have to have the right context when we're talking about this. When I say we have not mastered ourselves, I am talking about master as far as the word meaning teacher. How you doing, Brother TJ? Right? When I say this, I mean specifically, master means teacher. So if you've had a slave master, you've had somebody who has taught you how to be on a level of what they thought Slavs. I don't think they should be taught like, but what they believe Slavic people should have been treated like. Right? So the slave master is the one that teaches you how to be like what they thought Slavic people should have been treated like. because I know we have this in our mind that only we have gone through any kind of rough patches, but people have practiced on other people even before they got to us. And some of us did some heinous stuff to each other. However, in this context, I want you to recognize that, right? Those who take sovereignty classes with us, if you take sovereignty classes with us, what's the first thing that we start off with? I say, you are the what? Right? Those of you who take sovereignty classes with us, when I start off, I always start off by saying, you are the what? Heck, some of you don't even take sovereignty classes with us. You probably heard me say this before. When I say, when we start off, I say, you are the, there we go, you are the master. The word master means teacher. You need to be able to teach this to others. Teach it to your children. How you doing, Sister Rob? You need to teach it to your children. You need to be able to teach it to your, to the police that might pull you over. You need to be able to teach it to your HR department, right? You need to be able to teach it to the federal government if necessary. You need to be able to teach it to a judge. You need to be able to teach it to yourself. It needs to be taught to you by someone else as well. But you must be what? You must become a master. Anything less than becoming a master is not becoming of you. Xavier, I'm already on it. And the fact that you haven't mastered, the piece, like, of being able to say hello, that shows that you need to master yourself. Right? But I'm already exactly where I need to be. I'm not going to be sped up or slowed down because somebody wants me to change what I'm saying. You can scroll though, and I appreciate your presence and your humanity. So watch this. You are the master. You must master yourself. We have not mastered ourselves. People come on here, such as Xavier, right, who I believe to be a great person. However, they're still on their journey, just like all of us. None of us are perfect, right? And you have to get to a place where you begin to master something. Right? You have to master yourself. First of all, have you mastered patience? Have you mastered the ability to listen to somebody long enough? I don't like, get to it, get to the point, get to the point. You missed the point because you're not even able to master civility, right? You got to be able to master civility. You got to be able to master patience. And you're not going to learn much if you're impatient. Now, here's the point. Masters, by the way, start off as what? What do all masters start off as? I'll give you a hint. Masters start off as the very thing that they are supposed to create or supposed to make or supposed to help shape and form. How you doing, Remnant? A student, what's another word that we would use for a student? What's another word we would use for student? A master should create what? Okay, pupils. I'm still looking for another word. Prospects, okay, looking for another word. I like the word pupil, by the way, because that's talking about your inner sight, right? Out of the iron, right? But nevertheless, listener, apprentice, okay. So masters do have apprentices. And if you are somebody's apprentice, or if you are an apprentice, we're getting close. If you are an apprentice, okay, now think biblical terms. Masters have what? Masters make what? All of those words you're using are correct. I'm looking for a specific word for a specific reason. Discipline. So those who are under masters who are disciplined, we would call them what? Disciples. Thank you. Right? Discipleship. So we have not mastered ourselves because we have not disciplined our own people. The system is sus because the system wants you to believe to not be disciplined at all, except for by the corporation of the United States. But we have never taken time out because we fell into that false narrative, because we fell into AI, like we talked about yesterday, this artificial intelligence. We have begun to believe the hype of the oppressor. We have been captivated by the captor. We are in Stockholm syndrome, and we believe that it is not important to raise ourselves. I saw something powerful yesterday. I don't know if you guys have seen this yet or not. How you doing, Black Steel? How you doing, Sister Tracy? I saw something powerful. I don't know how much you guys have been able to see this or not, or if this has popped up on your feeds, your pages, whatever. But there was a pastor, and the pastor begins to read some stuff that's very sexually explicit. He reads it during a school council meeting or a city council meeting. I'm not sure. I'm pretty. It probably is a school council meeting, but or some kind of school council meeting. Maybe it's a city council meeting, but he begins to read it, and the language is so rough that the guy is like, "Hey, pastor." So this is a pastor reading it. And he's like, "Hey, pastor, please stop reading. Please, well, that's not appropriate. That's this. That's not that." And he keeps reading, and the guy's like, "Please stop." And he keeps reading. So that finally, after he's made the point, he says, "Oh, you want me to stop?" He's like, "How dare you tell me to stop?" He says, "How dare you tell me to stop? This is what you have our children reading." And then when he turned the book around, I was like, "Wait a minute, that's like a preschool kindergarten book." And they're reading that, first grade at the most, and they're reading that stuff. Right now, I know they do this all the time, but I just was blown away when the presentation of it, when he pulled the cover around. I was like, "Oh, okay." I was like, "This is why I'm so glad that we homeschool." But what I'm trying to get to the point is that you must learn how to master yourselves, how to teach yourselves, how to treat your children like disciples instead of treating them like your friends, and so how to teach your children as disciples and discipline them in righteousness rather than let somebody else get their hands on it, because you got some perverted people out here perverting the word, not just as far as even sexual perversion. Perversion means that you were aiming towards something, but somehow you got off track. You were going towards the target correctly, but somehow you veered off. Right? We lack discipline, not because we don't want to be disciplined. We lack discipline because we don't discipline ourselves. It is not anybody else's responsibility to discipline my child. Right? I learned that a long time ago. I'm 5 babies in, many more babies that I help take care of, many more babies that I shape their lives, many more babies, even if I haven't met them in person yet, that I have a personal relationship with. I promise you, right? I promise you, like, it's not my responsibility to depend on somebody else to teach my people. I'm not upset. I'm upset when my children are taught foolishness like that, but I'm not upset by this system being what it's supposed to be, because the system is sus. How you doing, Off Grid? How you doing, Rissa? The system is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. That's what they teach their children. That's what Zeus is. That's why they love Zeus. That's why they love Hera, right? That's why they love Hermes. That's why they love Cupid. That's why they love that stuff. That's why Cupid is running around here, and you go to all these houses and stuff, and you go to all these different Greco-Roman type things around, and you see naked babies with wings on them, peeing and stuff, sometimes with animals in precarious positions, right? That's why you see those things, right? You must start becoming the master of your disciples. Not everybody is your disciple, by the way. This is not for everybody. I wish I could give a word that was for everybody on the planet. It's not for everybody. I wish this was accepted, but see, even even the airwaves that I'm using right now, right, to communicate with thee, have to go through somebody else's prism, and so they even get to control how much of it goes to you, right? So I know this message is not for everybody. Some people click off the message because they see how I'm dressed. They see me in the chemise. They see me in the tunic. They already made a decision. This is up. This is this. They see the hairstyle. They say up. Okay, he's against it. Blah blah. So some people can't even look long enough. Some people, as we saw earlier, some people are already ready to tell you why you're not right, or are impatient because, hey, look, they could be hurt. They could be going through frustration. Maybe they need to get to next something. Maybe they're on the clock for somebody else so much until they are so busy being discipled by somebody else, they can't even be taught, or they can't have a master. And look, I'm not trying to say I'm your master, like master, yes, sir, boss. This ain't chattel slavery. This is culture. And you should become a master of your culture. This is part of our issue. A huge part of our issue is that we have not mastered our culture. We have not mastered our alphabet. We have not mastered what it looks like to put our culture out there, even in places that people might think are run down, right? Even though people might think places are run down, this is still ours. And if anybody's going to fix it, it's got to be you. In the midst of chaos, is greatness. In the midst of something that, see, if you're not careful, if you look up top, I'm gonna show both of y'all. I'll show you on YouTube first. If you're not careful, you'll look and you'll see destruction right here. But if you keep looking, it shows that at some point there was greatness. And what happens is a lot of times we just stop to look and we just say, okay, well, at one point, I'm gonna show you on TikTok too. What we do is a lot of times we go, okay, at one point it was this. It was nice when we had, but we never look to see that there's still the seed there that's growing. That's not just the seed, there's still something rooted there that we can go ahead and make sure that we hold on to. I don't know why it's not. I'm trying my best. Something going on my screen, y'all. I guess they don't want me to. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to show you. Well, I can't mirror the screen. I was going to try and make sure I mirror the image. I don't know why it won't let me click on this one thing. Hold on. Let me see if I take it out the case. I apologize. I'm not sure what's going on, family. Yeah, for some reason it's not letting me press on that. It's interesting. Yeah, they won't let me press on it. Well, anyways, you'll get the point. If you think, you'll think that something's run down if you're not careful, but keep on following, and you'll see that there was stuff here that was honored. It still is. The legacy that still should keep on moving. And people that have legacy here, based off the scripture. You see what I'm saying? So you if you're not careful, you'll allow yourself to believe that there's nothing for you to master, or there's nothing that you've mastered before, or there's nothing that your people have done in excellence. This is why a lot of us are working in the community so hard. Right? This is why a lot of us are working so hard and diligent in the community. Why somebody has to, why somebody should, why somebody must. This is why we have to work in the community, because there's so much stuff that's here that's rich, that's valuable, that reminds us of who we are. And a lot of us have forgotten who we are, and don't trust who we are, and don't believe who we are. Right? There's so much of that goes on. There's so much richness and value in who you are. Right? There's so much richness and value in who you are and whose you are. Right? What but if you don't see the value in yourself, why would you even look for a vision? See, here we submit to vision, purpose, and value. But you have not mastered who you are. How can you have a vision if you don't know your purpose? Or what does your vision even matter if you don't have a purpose? How can you know your purpose if you don't have a vision? And even if you have vision and purpose, if you don't value certain things, then what's the point? Right? Vision, purpose, and value. If you can have all this stuff together and still not be in a righteous place. So we have not mastered ourselves. How you doing, Brother Trevon? We have not mastered ourselves. We have not taught ourselves. Right? And when you don't teach yourself, somebody else gets to teach you. All right, you ready for this? So now, since somebody else gets to teach you so much, now we got to ask a question. What have they taught you? Who taught you to hate yourself? Did you teach you to hate yourself? Uh-oh. People aren't going to like this part. But did you teach you to hate yourself? Just a question. Who do you think taught you to hate the shape of your nose? And this is for educational purposes only. Right? But I'm trying to educate. I'm trying to reach inside you, show you the potential that you have. Let's agree on that potential and let's move together. Once we put it back in there, let's move together as a community. See, they've been ripping out who you are and not even putting anything back in you. At least let's take out who you are, put it on display for you to see it and others to see it, that we might agree at the greatness that's in you, and then put it back in you. Who taught you to hate the shape of your hips? Even though then they turned around and they put on those huge, whatever you call those things, basically baskets that they put around themselves, and then eventually would start putting little bustles on the back or whatever, little bumps on the back to make it look like they had something, and then eventually would start just having plastic surgery. Meanwhile, you're cutting it off yourself. Who taught you? Now they got to the point to where they want the BBL. Who taught you that you should hate yourself? You got to ask that question. Thank you for the love. Appreciate it. And how you doing, DMs? Right? Who taught you to hate yourself? Did you do you think you taught yourself? You think that was your curriculum? You think that your hatred for self is self-taught and self-inflicted? Once again, we have not mastered ourselves. That's why Paul says something interesting. He says, this is after he sets things in order with Passover, right? And he says that this is the custom, this is something that we keep as a people, and this is what we're supposed to do. And then he says, if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. That's 1 Corinthians chapter 11. That's like last few verses. He says, if we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. If we would judge ourselves, we would not be judged. Right? If we would take time out to teach ourselves and live by certain laws and commandments and statutes, etc., we wouldn't have to worry about being judged by somebody else's stuff because they would not be your standard. Problem is you understand the enemy, but you don't understand your own culture. And when I say the enemy, it's not as simple as black versus white. Right, I comprehend there's a spirit that goes along with this, and the spirit that was given to the people that are in control now. There's a spirit that existed with many people of many different colors of many different nations. Right, that doesn't excuse though what we're going through right now. Okay, so I comprehend overall many people were slaves. I comprehend overall many people were slave masters. I comprehend overall that there are a lot of people who wanted to hide the fact that they were us and did a lot of crazy stuff to us because of the hatred they had for themselves. I get all those things. It's not as simple as all white people are evil and all skin folk is kinfolk, because it's not. Either one of those is true. I get all that. So I'm with y'all before somebody goes there, here you what? No. This is not hatred towards anybody, because I don't have hate in my heart. Now I have hate in my heart towards evil, but not towards humanity. Need you to catch the difference, right? I have hate because hate just means to detest. Anytime something comes up against me, I test it out. And if it's not righteous, I break it down. That's what hate actually is. Hate means to detest. Hate means to a certain extent to ignore, right? Because hate is the opposite of love. Love is an action. Hate means that I should if I hate it, I find ways to make sure that it's not around or is not consuming my life. See, you even go because we don't master words. We've even gone through somebody else's prison. You see, we're even going through somebody else's prison. Right? Like, for example, how we've been talking a lot lately about what you consider yourself to be people. But a people is a nation. You can be a person, you can be persons, but if you're not a nation, you're not a people. And unfortunately, everybody wants to be part of the United States, not realizing that the United States is not even a country. Right? Not even aware that the United States is a country. I mean, it's not a country. Excuse me. The United States is not a country, right? According to law, the United States is A, a corporation, B, a board. That's why you have a president, vice president, secretaries, etc. And C, something that can be publicly traded. But it is not a country. So you keep thinking that you keep trying to identify with a fake culture based off of fake people, right? You're straw man, trying to do fake business, money that doesn't even have gold or silver to back it up. And you keep signing away your real self in order to stay in false reality, this artificial intelligence, because all artificial intelligence has to have computer chips in it. Artificial intelligence started when you started thinking that your intel, your information should come through fake sources or even come from fake resources. So you are thinking you're resourceful, but your resources are based off of things that do not exist. Got you in the chokehold. Sorry about it. We're gonna make sure we get you out of there, right? But we got to at least introduce the problem. Hallelujah. I promise you. Trigger warning, because some of this stuff might hurt. You know, some of this stuff, some truth hurts. Truth separates and truth hurts. So we're gonna get this thing together for you. Right? But I want you to recognize, I want you to realize that you are dealing in something that is not supposed to help you with sovereignty. And if it's not sovereignty, it's trying to get you towards slavery. Now we're gonna come out. We must come out. It is mandated that we come out. It is mandated that we do great things, big things, that we no longer do the same things that we've been doing. Praise God. We must. We must get better. We must be greater. We must do righteous things. We must be in right, lawful standing. But I need you to hear me and hear me clear once again. It's not going to come through the prism of the people who have enslaved you. This is not going to come through the prism of the people who have captivated you. This is not going to come through the people who tell you a vision on a screen or teleport a vision out to you. This is not going to come through the people who teleport a voice to you, telephone. This is not going to come through a place to where you're going to go ahead and make sure that you're going to have a new version of a telegram, teleporting a mission through the gram called Instagram. This is not going to be the same. It's going to come through somebody who is free, or something that is free, or some society that is free from the system, that is separated. Amen. The truth will set you free or make you free, right? And you must have truth. And this is not going to be multiple truths. I apologize. This is a cultural perspective. This is not multiple truths, because according to our culture, we define truth as something to be singular. So even in my speaking to you, I don't believe in separation. I don't believe in segregation. I do believe in separation, but I believe that the most important separation that will happen to you, at least right now, is going to be the separation of certain mentality, right? Or certain types of mentality, even instrumentality that is entered into your brain. Right? Thanks for being part of the community, Carl. Appreciate it. So I just want to keep it 100 with you as we get ready to go into this. Trigger warnings, all that. This is for educational purposes. But today we got to stomp on some things, because you have not educated yourselves. You have not mastered yourselves. We have not mastered ourselves yet. And we keep asking the slave master to keep teaching us. We're mad at Florida because Florida wants to keep teaching the same thing they've been teaching. I can't be upset with the person who has made it clear that they don't like me and they will not teach me. I can't be upset with them for continuing to be who they are. At some point, if it's a snake, let it be a snake. If you get bit by a poisonous snake, that's your fault, is it not? There's an old story, right? There's a guy. He found a snake on the side of the road. He tried the snake. He saw it. He tried to run away. The snake said, "Please don't go. Help me." The guy says, "No, man, you're a snake. I don't know about this." His friends even tell him, "Man, that's a snake. Be careful. That's a snake." Snake says, "Man, I'm dying. Come on, man. I promise. I can't even do anything to you right now. I can't even move. Just help me." So he helps the snake. He nurtures the snake. He feeds the snake. He helps the snake get back. I can't say on his feet. Get back in his slither, right? The snake and him become friends. They have many dinners. They have many conversations. Their families meet each other. Everything seems to be great. And then one day, they're out, and the man puts his hand in a certain motion, and the snake, not meaning to, but out of instinct, bites the man. The man is poisoned. He's dying. He begins to fall down. The snake, out of instinct, because it's hungry, hasn't ate in months, begins to eat the man. The man says, "What are you doing? We had all this stuff. We're friends." He doesn't that. He said, "At the end of the day, I have love for you, but I'm still a snake." Okay? Like at the end of the day, my instincts will take over. My default setting, as much as you've helped me, it must take over, because I'm not designed to be your friend. I'm designed to be a snake. I'm not designed to have the human context of friendship. I'm designed to be a snake. The system is sus. And you are in a snake-like system, and you keep saying, "Why are they biting us?" This is the same system. Like, once again, you're talking about Florida, right? Florida, they don't want to let us. We need to fight for our children. We need to make sure that they teach us. It was never their responsibility to teach you. It was your responsibility to teach you. And they knew this, so they stopped teaching you, so that you couldn't take accountability for yourself. And when one can't take accountability for themselves, now it's everybody else's fault. It's everybody else's problem. Look, I'm not saying that there's no fault in the person who did you dirty, but hear what I'm saying. It's not their responsibility to bring you out, right? I get it. It's weird that somebody would jack up your country and leave you bare Take away any kind of semblance of education that you have, whether it be their prism or yours, and then leave and say, see, look, y'all needed us the whole time. Look at you. You're nothing, right? It's weird that somebody would do that, but I need you to comprehend it's not their responsibility. How you doing, Mr. Sabiscus? It's not their responsibility. It's not their responsibility to make sure that they help you to get out. I didn't say you don't deserve reparations, but hear what I'm saying. It's not their responsibility to give it to you. Uh-oh. Because even if they gave you reparations, the dollar goes down, which means that now you're getting something when they're getting ready to go to get rid of fiat cash anyways. You want dollars. And even when they give you the stuff, you got to go into contract with the government, and you're not even the people, the nation that need it, because you're not identifying as freedmen, because freedmen deserve reparations, and you're not freedmen, not just FREE. No, I'm talking about freedmen, because that's what the people who got reparations initially were called. They were not called Americans. They were called freedmen. They were Negro. They were Africans who have been brought over, South Americans who have been brought over, people from the Caribbean who have been brought over, or indigenous people who were the original American. The original American is defined as a copper-colored person indigenous to the Americas. That is who got 40 acres and a mule. But you keep trying to be an African American. An African American exists until the late 1970s or 1980. Right? And you're asking for something that's not going to help you. I'm not saying you don't deserve reparations, but they're not giving you what you think reparations is, nor do you qualify if you're identifying as something outside of yourself. But see, when you have been taught everything outside of yourself, then you can't identify if this is for you or not. How you doing, Takwa? Right? And once again, trigger warning. I know this is going to trigger some stuff. I know it's going to make some people frustrated and upset, but I need you to hear it, because you're not getting this from anybody else. I'm not saying I'm the only one that knows it. I'm saying I'm the only one that might be giving it to you, at least right now. There's others that teach this for real and probably do a better job. But this is part of my call and part of my responsibility. How you doing, Sister Monica? And so when I'm giving this to you, I want you to recognize that we have without mastered ourselves. We have not mastered ourselves. Right? I'm black all day, every day. I'm Moroccan all day, every day. I'm Moorish all day, every day. I'm Ghanaian all day, every day. I'm Shwit all day, every day. I'm Tisalagi all day, every day. I'm Anakitawaya all day, every day. I'm Cherokee all day, every day. I can keep going all over the world if you want. I know who I am. I'm Kush. I'm Kemet. I'm Put. Right? I'm a lot of different things. I get it. Right? And I have no problem being these things. But on paper, in the United States government, I'm not those things, because they look at those things as enemies or fake versions of people. And I'm not a fake version of anybody. Right? But I live separate from the system. I live a lifestyle of a non-citizen national. I don't register myself with the system anymore. And so since I don't register myself with the system anymore, I must be able to do things for myself, including my own teaching. I must be able to look at the same world that everybody else looks at, and I must be able to say, this is how we see it through a cultural prism. How you doing, MIT tomorrow? Yeah, they taught us. Yeah, exactly. Short circuit. How you doing? They taught us to be in a place to where we don't have the intelligence or the information. We've been receiving artificial intelligence and expecting that it works in reality. Come on, right? I'm trying to help you as a bridge. I'm trying to get you. I'm trying to report. Y'all were ported. You've been ported in slavery for a long time. And I found out. I went somewhere and I said, "Hey, wait a minute." I found out that there's another port over here called freedom. So I'm coming back to report to you what I found. And I found that there's something greater than having to be a slave on paper, or in life, or in your mind, or through anxiety, or through depression. And I'm not saying that those things are easily gotten over, but what I'm trying to tell you is a lot of your anxiety does not come from just the fact that you have a condition. It is not something that was just passed down from generation to generation. Anxiety is not in your gene, right? Anxiety is coming from the fact that you live in a system that makes you worry about what's going to happen tomorrow. That's your anxiety. Most of your anxiety is because you live in a system where you're like, what's going to happen tomorrow? Like, I have no clue. Like, this stuff is so crazy, and I don't have a system put in place. I live in somebody else's system, and I don't have anything systemic in my life that helps me on a daily basis to be able to come out of this. And how you doing, Sister Gertrude? Be wise as a serpent, harmless as doves. Know your enemy, but do not do as he does. Yeah. And how you doing, Sister Tori? Right? And thanks for being part of the community's stereo cure. Said in the old English dictionary, black was referred to as someone who commits evil. It could be considered someone who commits evil. And by the way, they change the definition of black all the time. Don't forget, sometimes black means that they tried to say that it doesn't have color, right? But that was them changing it because at that time they wanted to be black for certain reasons, as far as trying to take certain land. As soon as they got the land, they changed the definition back, right? Like you gotta be on it. This system is crazy. That's why every few decades, every generation, they're gonna call you something different, and you're gonna call yourself something different. You was an NIGGE, you know what? You went from that to being freedmen for a little bit. Then from that, you went to being Negroes, right? Then you went from being Negroes to being African American I'm sorry, to being black. Right, you went from Negro to black, then you went from black to African American. Who knows what you're going to be next? Now they don't even want you to identify. They want you to just identify with anything that has nothing to protect you. So now people are identifying themselves. And I'm not trying to speak evil of anybody who's LGBTQ plus. Hear what I'm saying? For lawful purposes, this is for educational purposes only. I want you to catch this. For lawful purposes, they want you to identify with a bunch of letters that in law are not protected. I know you think that humanity is protected because you think that, once again, you think we the people includes you, right? And forgive me, I'm gonna have to move our setup for a little bit, but right, because I don't want to be in the sun too much, or else it's gonna jack up our it's gonna mess up our it's gonna what is it? It's gonna overheat. There we go. That's the word I'm looking for. But in your mind, you think that we the people includes you, right? Real talk. That's what you believe. That's what you were taught. You think that we the people means you because you think that you were always part of the nation. But the word people means what? Word people means nation, right? We talked about this before. Let's talk about it again, right? And just get this out the way early. Remember, people means nation. So the people of New York is a thing. The people of California is a thing, right? But we, the people of the United States, who are considered to be people? When the United States was formed, when the Declaration of Independence was signed in 1789 and 1791, later on after that, what, who was considered to be a people? How did you qualify to be people? Not just white. You had to be right. You had to be a male because women didn't have rights. But not just that, because even if you were a male, a white male, didn't mean that you had rights either, because you had to have a certain amount of money and a certain amount of land. So when they say we the people, it shows you who owns the corporation of the United States. Now, they weren't a corporation quite yet. They were on their way to becoming one, but they were already sowing seeds, right? Check out some of you who start with George Washington as your first president. Check out your fourth president, Madison, who got upset and said, stop telling people they live in a democracy. Stop telling people that they have rights. These people don't have rights. You're going to make them think that we need to change up the game, change up what we're doing. You guys are going to mess up our money. Stop telling them that. Right? But you must become a nation. Who is your nation? Because the United States is not even a country. It's not a nation. That's why some of you identify with New York. We New Yorkers. Is Brooklyn in the house? Without a doubt. Right? Now I mean, son. That's why you there. Or California love. Right? Texas. From the dirty. From the west side of Houston. From Ward 5. Whatever. from Southeast DC, Ward 7, Ward 8. Stand up. We don't care if Marion Barry on crack or not. At least he do stuff for us. Right? I'm a Marylander, not Maryland, but from Maryland. And I'm not from Baltimore. I'm from Baltimore. Chi-Town's finest. Illinois, baby. Because you identify with your state. Your state is your country. And your state has what? And your state has capitals. That's where they protect the capital, which is protect you guys who work for them, as far as protecting you to make sure that you're protected just enough to continue to slave out for the rest of your life and sign these false contracts and keep doing things that are part of statutes rather than actual laws. Right? And by the way, this is why, you want to know one of the reasons why we don't talk about this a lot? But see, this is why you got to educate yourself. The people who are buying land, some of y'all have this mindset that they're only buying land to be evil. With some of them, it's evil if they say, hey, the world is overpopulated, which is a myth, because I can fit everybody in the world in the state of Florida. You know what I'm saying? So the world can't be overpopulated. Right? But nevertheless, you'll have people that have so much land and don't grow anything on it for you and I to eat, but then they say that the world is overpopulated. Right? So you have to realize this, right? But they get to say, even though the state of New York technically only has power over you because they have your straw man and not you. Right? Let me just put that out there too, because it's even deeper and more sinister than that. But that's why we have classes and stuff. But the state of New York and stuff like that, they don't really. They have power over your straw man because that's what you signed over to them. That's what you registered to them, and you signed away your free self, or at least you said you don't want to identify as your free self. That being said, right before we get into that and we get into all types of other stuff, I need you to recognize that we're saying that all these people buy land only for sinister reasons. Some of these people buy up a bunch of land. You know why? Because they know that the system is sus. It makes sense. And they know a lot of people, even though it's still a very small percentage, a lot of people are starting to recognize how this law works. And not only just recognize, because a lot of you are aware of these laws, but you're not living these laws. So they're starting to realize that there's a lot of people now that are starting to live these laws. And as they begin to live this, it's becoming problematic. Because now they know that freedom starts here. And freedom is moved here. Right? Freedom starts here. And it begins to become a movement from here. Did you catch that? Say it a couple more times so you get it. Freedom starts here, but it begins to move from here. Once a people become passionate about who they are, game over. Give me liberty or give me death. When you get to that point, it's not a game no more. Right? Give me liberty or give me death. You got to get to a place where you recognize what's going on and you see all these things that are happening. You got to see what's going on. You got to realize all these different things that's happening. A lot of things that people are talking about, a lot of people are not in the position. And I guess I came somewhere where there's going to be fighting today. I'm sorry, y'all. I might have to go ahead and check on to see how they're doing. Amen. Yeah, I'm over here. It's supposed to be a church, but stuff go down at the church too, I guess. That's why we got to be ready to make sure that people are all right. Amen. Okay, they got it. Anyways, I thought we're coming near church. It's going to be all right. It is all right. People come. What's that old saying? People come to church because it's the hospital. That's what they say, right? Anyways, look like they were about to throw hands. They might have been throwing hands. I don't know. Anyways, praise y'all. Amen. Okay, it looks like they all right. Praise y'all. So this is what we got to go to, right? This is what we got to be into. This is what we have to admit, is that the system is sus, right? Even in a place like this, a lot of times we don't admit that people have faults, they have issues, and we don't teach them how to do anything else. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was looking. But there's a bunch of brothers that came out there that had a situation taken care of. So they got it. Amen. But I'm just trying to tell you, trying to show you that there's a lot of stuff out there that's like that. We don't recognize what's going on. We don't think about it. We don't think twice. We don't think twice about a lot of this stuff. A lot of this stuff that we've been taught. A lot of this foolishness that we were taught was righteousness. You know, and so we have to educate ourselves. Now, once again, here as a master is what I've got to make sure that you're ready for. As a master, do you recognize and realize that as a master, you must first be disciplined? Because every master is first a disciple. Every disciple is in next, that becomes a master. And when you become a master, you do not stop being a disciple. This is one of the issues that we have. Praise Yah. Right? You must recognize that every master, right, becomes or starts off as a disciple, just like every adult starts off as a child. Did you catch that? Every master starts off as a disciple, just like every adult starts off as a child. And that's why in every king there's a child, in every queen there's a child, in every child there's a queen, and every child there's a king. Or some of the children they're kings, and some of the children they're queens, right? And some of the adults they're kings. Or I said it right the other way, okay? But y'all get what I'm saying, right? That's why we talk about if I'm gonna heal the 50-year-old you, I gotta heal the 10-year-old you. And if you got the trauma at 10, then that means the 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, all the way up to 50, they all got to get healing. Right? So what happens is you have like let me even say it this way, because I want to make sure we get this before we go as a foundation. Because when we get this, go to the next part. Now you'll be with us all the way, right? When you are, watch this. For those of you who are adults, out of high school, out of college, have your own job, your businesses, whatever. How you doing, Akai? Right? For those of you who are adults, are you a preschooler? For those of you that are adults, are you an elementary school student? For those of you that are adults, are you a high schooler? I want you to catch it. I want you to catch what's going on. For those of you that are adults, are you a high schooler? Somebody said once was. Okay, what else? What y'all think? For those of you that are adults, are you a high schooler? Somebody said yes. Okay. For those of you that are adults, I need you to recognize, I need you to ask yourself, I need you to think, are you a high schooler? Said no. You said you're a baby to this truth. Okay. You said you pre-K. All right. Are you a preschooler? Are you an elementary school student? Are you a junior high school student? Are you a middle school student? Are you a high school student? Are you a secondary school student? Are you a college major, etc.? Exactly. You're all of them because you're an eternal being. Right? Watch this. Your high school diploma, your college diploma, that means that you are considered to be what? A student of that school. Just because you passed doesn't mean you're not a student. The reason why you have a diploma is because you are a student who successfully went through the whole program, but you are still a student. So when they ask, did you go to high school? When they ask, did you go to college, and you put your high school, your college down, if they ask for evidence of it, you give them your diploma, or you give them something that has your credits on it, right? You give them a number to the school, whatever. Why do you give them that? You give them that because they want to be able to check to see, are you in fact a student? And the school doesn't say, oh, because they went here in 1985 and they graduated, they're no longer a student. The school says, yes, they're one of ours. Yes, they are our students, right? In the military, you get this, right? Do you stop being a Marine, devil dogs? Hoorah, right? Do you stop being a Marine because you retired? Or once a Marine, always a Marine? Did you stop being an airman because you got out? No, once an airman, always an airman. Did you stop being a sailor because you no longer go on ships? No, you still my shipmate, right? Did you stop being a soldier? Huh? Did you stop being a soldier just because you're not going around with your battle buddies anymore, carrying 50 pounds on your back? No. Right? Did you stop being a police officer because you stopped wearing the shield every day? Of course not. Never made it out of camp because you got kicked out. You were still considered to be. You are not somebody who's looked as highly upon, but you are still considered to be that which you went to training for. Did you know that? You might get up with an RE4 or something, but you still considered to be because you were part of the brotherhood. If you played in the NBA and you stopped playing in the NBA, did you stop being in the NBA? Or do they say, oh yeah, just former NBA player, they're not in the NBA, who cares about them, right? Or are you still considered to be in the fraternity? If you played in the NFL, this is why they didn't like what was happening to those NFL players that were having the brain injuries, right? Because you had all these people in the NFL, and the NFL do their players dirty, and those people paved the way for y'all to become multi-billion-dollar conglomerate that you are today. So just because you finished doing something doesn't mean that that's not who you are, right? That's why you always got to be careful, because just because you came out of a curse doesn't mean that you can't go back into it. So don't ever forget. Don't pay attention to it. Don't hold on to it. I don't have to identify as those things anymore, but I can't act like in eternity they don't belong to me. This is why I'm the best person to teach my own son, because I know what the lust issue is. See, my son at 7 years old has never had girls who are, like I had this at 6 years old, right? I had where girls who were in ninth grade, praise Yah, I've told y'all the story before it got broke up where it never happened to me, but girls in the ninth grade were trying to do stuff to me sexually. And had I not had guys that were in their grade basically beat them up, and I thought they were bad for doing so. They didn't really beat them up, but they basically made them look bad. They pushed them around a little bit and ripped their clothes apart in front of everybody. It was too much, possibly. But they saw a little boy that was about to get jacked up by a grown girl, right? And so even though I'm an older guy, there's some stuff that I was around, right, that kind of messed with me. I went through pornography, and so yes, I'm not held to pornography anymore. However, I'm not gonna hold you. Sometimes if I put myself in the wrong position, I better be prayed up, and I better make sure I have some things systemically in place and systematically in place, so that when I get tempted, I don't get tempted. Even when I was in the pornography, I never really got tempted to like be having sex with these girls like that, like as far as physically, but as far as like being tempted to look in the wrong way and have my heart go away and start thinking things that are pornographic. And by the way, pornography, porneia, coming out of the Greek, literally means fornication. So to have a false image of marriage is pornography, right? And so pornography is considered to be not adultery, even though adultery is there, but also is considered to be fornication. And fornication and adultery are both reasons to be able to get divorced, right? So I don't want to get something in my brain so much where I start thinking that I have the spirit in me of a false image of marriage, right? But so I recognize who I am. So it works in the negative, it works in the positive. I got to remember, I'm not saying I've got to always look back at it, but I can't think that I'm so great and I'm so this, I'm so that I'm not going to have any issues ever. And once again, remember what I just said. What I'm trying to get you to see is where we're going next, is that a lot of people who are supposed to be kings, a lot of people that are supposed to be queens, a lot of people who are supposed to be leaders of your community, of your society, of your environment. A lot of us get to a certain point and we start saying, I do not need, hear what I'm about to tell you. A lot of us get to a certain point and we start saying, hey, I do not really need to worry about thus and such or whatever anymore. I do not need to cover myself in certain areas. I do not need to make sure that I remember. Like, I still do exercises where I'll go back to my ABCs and not only say A, B, C, D, E, F, G forward, I'll say it backwards sometimes. And I'm not fast with it, but I might say Z, Y, X, W, V, U, T, S, R, Q, P, O, N, M, L, K, J, right, et cetera, all the way back to A. Now, I do those things because even it gets my mind to go back and make sure that I refresh myself the same way that I'm going forward in certain things. I need to also remember that I'm an eternal being. This is why a lot of us have problems with certain things as far as memory. I'm not always 100% accurate with memory. I'm a lot better than what I used to be. I even used to suffer from what people would call short-term memory. But I do certain exercises like that to remind myself, because when I go back to that, when did I learn my ABCs? I learned my ABCs before some of my memories that at least that I think aren't in my mind. I learned some of my ABCs before I could before I could even say them, before I could walk. When I was watching Sesame Street, I was learning ABCs. You know what I'm saying? So when I go back to that, I go back to a point in time to where I'm actually going back to a point. I just said it. I go back to a point in time, right? In eternity. Time is not separate from eternity, y'all. Time is not separate from eternity. Hallelujah. It is not. Time is not separate. Did you hear what I just said? Time cannot be separated from eternity. Time exists in eternity. Eternity came first, but time is nothing more to indicate where we are in different seasons. Right? And so a lot of people don't even look to you, we don't even in the right context. Now, what does all this have to be with being a master do with being a master? This is why you see people get to certain levels and they fall. This is why you see our people get to certain levels and they fall. How you doing, Kepper? How you doing, Negus or Negus? Right? How this is why people get to certain levels and they fall. Why? Because they get to a certain point and they haven't gone back to ensure that the trauma is taken care of, and they believe that they never have anything to worry about anymore. They think they've made enough money. They think they have enough clout, right? Like there's some people out there. I'm not at this level yet myself, right? But I hope to never get. Even when I get to this level, I hope to never do this. But there are certain people out there to where they don't have to be the very thing that they told you to be anymore. They did that, they made it of money, and now, hey, people want to keep on giving them money, so what? But whether you like them or not, they don't worry about actually being in truth anymore. Right? They got to a certain point to where they said, hey, the very thing that I've been spending so much time in to help you in an eternal fashion, I'm not even going to be disciplined in it anymore. How you doing, Sister Shima? Right? Hear what I'm saying? Remember what we said? The master must be a disciple. Just because you finish being a disciple doesn't mean, or just because you have become a master doesn't mean you're not a disciple anymore. A disciple is one who is disciplined. The discipline comes first. Discipleship comes first. Just because you're no longer, did you hear what I just said? Just because you are no longer, or just because you made it to becoming a master, a rabbi, a preacher, a teacher, a professor, a mayor, a president, whatever it is, a CEO, a business owner, a mother, a father, a husband or wife, just because you made it there, it does not mean, just because you finally made it there, it does not mean, right, that you get to stop being disciplined. Just because you made it somewhere doesn't mean, just because now, watch this. I don't have to work a 9 to 5. Praise y'all. Now, I haven't gotten to the place where I don't have to worry about finances and stuff at all, but I don't have to work a 9 to 5 anymore. Praise y'all. Just because I've gotten there doesn't mean that I shouldn't be disciplined at what got me there in the first place. Don't forget. See, that's when we step outside of this thing that we just call, whatever we call habits, we call teachings, whatever. Now we're getting into something called character. Did you catch it? Now we're getting into something called character. Now we're talking about something different. See, you see this over here? I can't reach it, so I'll try to point up to you. You see this up here? I don't know how to look. Let me make sure y'all can see it on TikTok as well. You see these letters up here, right? This letter I, N, both of those are called characters. You see this on YouTube, the letter I, the letter N, that's called a character. You know why it's called character? It's called character. It is called character due to the fact that it does not change. Right? Like somebody might put, a line on top of that I and a line on the bottom of it. We still recognize it as an I. Somebody might say ine instead of n, but we know what that is. We know that that's part of the alphabet, part of the Greek language. It hasn't changed for the time of the Greek. And we know that ine comes from the nun, right? And avda, or ancient Hebrew, and the aleph bet, right? So that character, it points to, because it stays in character, it has no choice but to stay in character. We now recognize, right? Because it stays in character, we can recognize it no matter what. Problem is what is the character of your community? What is it that we recognize in you no matter what? Or does your character change so often? Exactly. We shouldn't change one jot, one tittle. Exactly, right? So does your character change so often that you have become unrecognizable as a people? Right? Does your character change so often that you have become unrecognizable as a people? Have you gone from being, have you now, you're African American, before that you was black. I mean, I'm sorry, you were African American, before that you was black, before that you was Negro, before that you was, you was, you was a freedman, before that you was an N-word, before that, you know, you were Negus or Negus or Niger or Niger, before that you had tribe names, before that, right, before you, at one time you was Negro, but actually Negro from the ancient terminology, before Spain was even a country, right? Who are you? Character doesn't change. We must begin to give our children character. Right? We must begin to give them character. What is the character of your people? What is the character of a husband for us? And what is the character of a wife? What is the character of a husband? And what is the character of a wife? How you doing, Sean B? Thanks for being on. Once again, what is the character of a husband? What is the character of a wife? In your culture, what is the character? What if I were to go from one house to the next house to the next house? I'm not saying every husband should be the same. How you doing, Sister Tasha? I'm not saying every house should be the same. Every man is the same. Hear what I'm saying? If husbands have characteristics, what should be in every husband's house? What should be in every wife's house? What should be in every child's house when they see a husband? That's character. That's culture. That's cultural characteristics. That is going to take you to the next level. Waiting for somebody else to teach you that when they themselves do not even treat their women with respect. Y'all remember 50 Cent? Everybody came down on 50 Cent because 50 Cent always trolling people. And 50 Cent basically made fun of Madonna because Madonna's what? How old is Madonna? 60s, 70s, whatever she is. And she was there basically doing like this little pose where she acted like she was stuck under the bed and had all her little stuff showing behind her. And 50 Cent basically was like making it a point to say, don't nobody want to see that. Told her to get a little old behind her. And everybody got all upset and frustrated. She's 64. Okay. Right? In our culture, in their culture, everybody came on it because how dare you tell Madonna how she can't make sure that she shows all her business to everybody, especially at her age. She's brave. And then Madonna comes up with the thing, you're just mad you're not going to look as great as I do at 64. Madonna, in our culture, I don't want a 2-year-old to do that. I don't want a teenager to do that. I don't want a 21-year-old woman showing everybody her stuff. And dang sure don't want my grandmother out there showing her stuff like that. Not because I'm trying to take away her sexual freedom. In your culture, if that's what y'all do, you do that. In my culture, we believe that we shouldn't be showing ourselves in sexually explicit manners. And I'm not saying that wearing less clothes means sexually explicit. I'm talking about showing your stuff with the purpose of trying to get some clicks and likes and people to say, "Oh, look, you still look sexy." That's not something that we do. And matter of fact, if we want to be honest, now this is not my culture, my tribe per se, but there are tribes so where women go out there bare-breasted. And when I'm around these tribes and they're bare-breasted, we don't look at them sexually. We don't over-sexualize them. But in the United States corporation, you can't do that because that's what you were taught. And so once again, who were you fed by? Who disciplined you? You're so disciplined in sexuality, Madonna, that you're busy trying to tell everybody it's great to be sexually, right? To be sexually out there and not realize that, hey, here you are, a 60-something-year-old, had to break up with Ashton Kutcher because he was a young guy who was really your children's age, right? Basically. And then y'all was doing all this stuff and you've had bad relation. You've been so torn to the side and tossed over, but that's what the society and this culture that you're in does. It jacks women up. Now, here comes somebody that says we secure our women and make sure that they should be able to be free to be themselves. And you get upset at it. And this because right. And so this culture says, hey, Kofi, he's somebody who's part of the patriarchy. No, our patriarchies run different. Our patriarchies are different. See, my patriarchs took care of their sisters and took care of their women. Right? Our patriarchs will kill for their women. Our patriarchs made sure that sisters were supposed to preach and teach. Right? Our patriarchs, they live different. Our tribe, our culture, we don't do the same thing. Right? Now your patriarchs are problematic because, and here's the wild part, your patriarchs are now starting to tell you that they should be treated like you and that they get to be women too. And you aren't calling them out. Matter of fact, you're saying to celebrate it because you're so confused and you're by the patriarchy that you actually are communing with the people that you say you fight against. If you caught what I said, you caught it. Right? Some of them so confused, not realizing that the patriarchs that you're against are actually the same people that you're marching with now. The same people that you said they must die and be killed, and every memory of them must be washed away, and if and no women are free until all women are free. But then now you're saying all women are women. Whoa, whoa. I'm not saying that I disrespect their humanity. I'm just saying your voice is a little jacked up. But you don't recognize who's in control. The patriarchy controls you. It's like when I talk about gangs, people be talking about they on that gang for life, this, that, whatever, my street corner, yada, yada, yada. I'm here to tell you, bro, if your gang gets big enough, the government has already infiltrated it. There's a police officer already in there. There's already CIA in there. There's already FBI in there. Your gang, right, ain't nothing but somebody used by the government. And they used to just outright use you because gangs used to belong to Greco-Roman government. If you were a Greek senator, then you had a gang that you walked the streets with, and y'all would actually kill people if they got out of line. And you would bring, and in Roman times, it got to the point to where they would even bring them to the actual, Senate building, if you will, and they would go ahead and have them right there and have the gang yelling and stuff, so people would be scared to vote against or to go against the person that was speaking. All they did was take what used to be something that was totally overt and they just made it a little bit covert. And now you think that you're in a different plane of existence. All they did was take something that used to be more overt. They made it covert. And now, once again, because you have not educated yourself, you just go by whatever they say. Black Panthers, yeah, of course the Black Panthers, right? That's one of the reasons why the Black Panthers fell apart. Matter of fact, Black Muslims. Why did Elijah Muhammad and Malcolm Shabazz, Minister Malcolm Shabazz, why did the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Minister Malcolm X, why did they beef? Their original beef, initial beef, is not just off of jealousy within the Black Muslim movement or NOI, right, Nation of Islam, but also they had people that were being controlled, and the CIA and the FBI were actually writing letters back and forth to both of them to make both of them say, "What in the world's going on?" Right? So this is something that's always been done. Any gang you talking about the mafia. Mafia has somebody there, and they go for RICO charges, especially if it's feds, right? So we talking about the feds. If they're looking for RICO charges, they don't even care if everybody else dies around the outskirt. They're looking for the main person. Yep, same thing with the Honorable Marcus Garvey, right? They're looking for they're not trying, right? They're hiring your own people, or they're putting themselves in there, or they're paying people, or they're just caught doing things that cause confusion, just like right, just like Crip, or I'm sorry, Bloods. Well, Bloods and Crips, really. Both of them were actually designed at first to make sure that they were not gangs. They were actually supposed to be militias. And these militias were supposed to go around and ensure that wherever your people lives, right, in their communities, that your people would be safe from police officers that were shooting your people up. Right. So they made sure they protected your people from crime that might be within your own people. We policed ourselves, but they also did what? They also policed their people or from the police officers. Right now, what happened? The CIA and the FBI started getting into it. They started paying their own members to become part of it, and they started going in there, killing certain people and doing certain things to make the Bloods and the Crips think that they hated each other, versus when really it was somebody else who did that to them. So now you have all these groups that keep trying to be Bloods and Crips fighting each other. And the reality is that y'all came together at first. The reason why you were originally instituted by your people was to be for your people. Now you have become an extension of the government against your people. This is the main reason why our people should stay away from gangs, is because once again, you become an artificial person. Yeah, set the fire and stand back, right? Willie Lynch told you. If we teach them right, if we as masters, right, because the master's the teacher, if we discipline them in this, they will teach the next generation to do so. And once the next generation has completely reversed its roles, now they will do this on their own. Maybe they'll do it. He even told you, maybe 300 or more years. He said this could work for thousands of years if we teach them correctly. This is why what it comes down to. Once again, this system is sus, and we have not mastered ourselves. We have mastered fighting each other. This just happened. Y'all can hear it off in the distance, so loud that it was coming all the way over here, right? People fighting themselves, but not fighting for each other. We have mastered fighting against each other, but not for one another. And this is when it becomes problematic. We have mastered the fight against one another. Do you hear what I'm saying? We have mastered the fight against our destiny. We have mastered the fight against our birthright. Because in order for you to be kings and queens, you must have a kingdom. You must have a queendom. You must have a birthright. But we have mastered the fight against each other. We don't have to worry about what white men say about black women, because they say a lot of stuff. I was allowed to be back there. At one point in my life, I was a token, right? So I know what it is to hear this behind the scenes, what they say about our sisters, and say it like you're not even there, because they believe that you're going to say, and you're going to tap dance to stay in the group. And there's a couple times I defended you. I'll be honest, there's a couple times when I didn't, and I apologize. I'm sorry. Hurts me to even say it. I don't like saying it, but it is what it is. But they've created a system for that. They're just like placing white and black slaves against each other and taking indentured away. Well, I mean, even when you talk about the indentured, and especially if we're talking about the Irish, right? Like places like the Isle of Montserrat, or some of the Irish that still fight for us in Nigeria, or some of the Irish that helped out with places like the Choctaw tribe and things like that. Yeah, then they gave some of them the opportunity. They said to some of to the Irish, they gave them a choice. Do you want to be poor white people? And they became Irish Americans. A lot of Irish Americans have forgotten their Irish heritage so much that a lot of Irish don't even like the Irish Americans. I know this because I speak and go to and talk to a lot of people that are Irish, right? And then, or if, or they said, hey, do you want to stand on principle? A lot of people went and left, and I can't be mad, by the way, at it, because if somebody said, like, if things were going down, I would hope that I'd say, I'll go ahead and fight. But let's be honest, right? Because the Irish indentured servants, and some of them were treated exactly like slaves if they were not outright slaves, right? So if somebody comes to me and says, hey, everybody gonna get whipped, everybody gonna lose this, that, or whatever, but you can just be one of us, but you just be a poor dude, and hopefully, you'll be poor, but you won't be whipped and all that stuff. You can have your own land. We'll even pay for you to have your land. We'll pay to be able to teach you how to farm on it. We'll pay to make sure that you're educated, but you're still going to be considered to be poor, nothing in our community. Maybe you'll work your way up, a couple generations from now, 3-4 generations from now. I don't know what my choice would be. So I'm not mad at those people for making the choice. But then there were others who decided to go ahead and stay with us. And that's why a lot of us carry a lot of Irish blood. Right. And of course, it depends on where in the world you're talking about, where in the states you're talking about, where in the territories you're talking about, because not all the stuff was exactly the same. Right. There's many different people that are spread out. But what I'm trying to say is overall, at the end of the day, right, at the end of the day, you have to go back to becoming masters of yourselves. Other people don't get to tell you who you are. And even with me saying all those things, right, other people don't get to tell you who you are. So even when I tell you these things, I can't just come from, like, watch this. If I'm going to talk about Irish, that's why I said I have to make it a point to say I was taught this by people who are in Ireland. You know what I'm saying? I was taught this by people who are here in America, who taught me, who took some of the classes initially before even our own people would take our classes. It was Irish people and people from other countries that were here that were listening to us and saying, yeah, we like what you're saying, and took some of the classes and would teach me during the class. Say, yeah, not only are you right about this, but actually it's deeper because da 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 da. So I have to listen to them because that's their culture. Why does somebody else get to tell you, bow down to us? We'll tell you what your culture is. That's why if I say I'm talking about George Washington, what do I have to do? I have to quote George Washington, because that's not my culture. That's his. So if George Washington says he married Martha, who, by the way, once again was brunette, brunette meaning literally that she had brown or brownish features. So she was somebody who had Negroid features. She had at least one drop of black blood. So George Washington married her, though, because she had as many slaves as he did. So once again, it's not even always as simple as black versus white. Martha Washington, you could say, is one of you. But just like Abraham Lincoln, who also was a slave before he was freed, his father was a free white man. His mother was a woman who was assaulted and forced to lie down, and ends up having a child. And that child, right? Abraham Lincoln even says, in the state that he was born, he was allowed to be treated as a slave. I wonder why. How you doing, Acoustic? Right. But he didn't like his people. So he even wrote before he became president, because he knew everybody was getting ready to try and split, because people have been trying to split since the Revolutionary War. The Three-Fifths Compromise showed how much people were trying to split, because that was not about you being three-fifths of a human being. That was about you were considered to be property. And before they even argued about you being paid for, any property that the South had, they had more of it. The North had, they had less of it. So they said the South they compromised. The South will pay 60% of the taxes, and the North will pay 40%. And thank y'all for the love. Appreciate you. And thanks for being on, right? So I'm here to tell you, this thing, you've got to start to teach yourself. Other people have taught you so much, and other people have taught you where you stood in your story so much that you don't even know your story anymore. You're not even worried about, is your story being represented? You don't even know sometimes how to see if your story is being represented. When's the last time you checked to see this, is the story that they're saying about me correct? When's the last time you checked that? And by the way, once again, couple reminders, real quick. Those of you that are in Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Rhode Island, Delaware, Massachusetts, possibly, if you want to come down this Saturday and Sunday coming up at 4 p.m. Eastern New York time, both days, we'll be meeting up on the border of like New Jersey and Pennsylvania. If you want the information on that, make sure you reach out to us. If you are interested on that Sunday, all of us on Zoom, we're going to be doing at 4 o'clock p.m. Eastern New York time. We're going to be doing the day of Pentecost. Our 3 ministers in training, they're going to do their initial sermons. We praise God for that. We at least put the information out on YouTube already. We're going to put the information out with the Zoom link on all of our platforms. And then lastly, something, maybe it'll come to me. There's something else. But yeah, those who have class. Tonight, we'll probably I'll try to be on TikTok and YouTube, but we might only be on YouTube only for this evening. We'll be on for Patreon, of course, at 7 p.m. Eastern New York time, about 7:45 p.m. Eastern New York time. I might only be able to make it on YouTube only. So if you can't find me on TikTok, just look for us on YouTube. We'll be on, okay? And then those who have class will have class. Also, as a reminder, we'll make sure that we do a special recording for those who were supposed to have class last night, since I had some stuff I had to attend to and I couldn't make it. All righty? Okay. You said this has always been a collective of the slave master and no only as an oppressor's tool. Okay. What'd you say? To be the scapegoats, then slowly stole their wealth and status, and now the poor white and blacks fight. They laugh, counting our money. Well, yeah. And by the way, there is something to racism. There's something to the hierarchy. There is something to privilege. But all of it's, once again, a straw man. And that's what we're trying to say. And so we have to realize that even though this stuff is not real, this is why we need to learn it. Even though it's not real, it gets real results. And that's part of the problem, is that we don't want to acknowledge that. Yeah, like these are constructs. Look up even in law. Look up a legal definition of interpretation, and you'll discover that interpretation has to be based off of the person who spoke, right? So who spoke? What did they say? What was the language of it? There's a language of a contract, verbally, etc. All these different things, right? But then it has something after that called construction or construct. And a construct is bigger than interpretation. We should interpret something as what it is. What happens is somebody comes on the interpretation and then begins to construct different things on top of it, right? And that's the problem that we have, right? That's the problem that we have, is that a lot of us, all right, Albert, you have a great day. A lot of us are dealing with the construct as if the construct isn't based off interpretation. It's the construct still gets results. The colonial construct, the social construct, the Afrocentric construct, the Eurocentric construct, the bibliocentric construct, the heliocentric construct, they're all based off interpretation. And if you're not careful, once again, it becomes the currency of the land. It becomes the commerce. It becomes commercially traded. in between us. It becomes something that we use to be able to go from point A to point B. What is currency? Currency is something that just means that we agree that it's something that we can use. Even though money has no gold or silver to back it up, you still use money. Why? Because you were taught to do so. So you still agree, even though it's a bad mindset and it's a bad agreement to have, you still have in your mind an agreement that says what? That you should be part of a social construct, a colonial construct that says that you should be able to trade fiat cash that doesn't even have anything that makes it valuable. Okay, it's equal opportunities enslavement for all of us. Okay, fine. It's easy for a lot of people to say, hey, racism doesn't really exist as a social construct. Once again, though, those social constructs, those colonial constructs, see what I'm saying? It's why you must master this. Become a teacher of it. And even if other people don't like it, once again, remember, even culture and tribes and the way people look at things are different. For example, the people you call presidents, right? My native family, right? Like not just family like in general, which I think sometimes more important than blood, if I be honest with you. But also my blood family, my blood relatives, we don't call presidents presidents. We call them town destroyers. Why do we call them town destroyers? Because they destroyed our towns. The native part of me hates to have a Jackson. I really don't like having any slave owners on my money, period. But really hates having a Jackson. And that's the one that they give you more than anything else at the ATM, right? That's usually what you're going to get more than anything else. Hate having Jacksons because of what Jackson did and represented, right? So we got to recognize what's going on. These social constructs were made real. Once again, overseers mistreat. See, this is the part where we got to get into it, right? If we're going to master this, if we're going to teach this correctly, let me give you a little teaching, right? Who was better? The same people we're trying to do, because if we're not careful, we do the whole thing, race doesn't matter and race social construct. Because if you know what race is something that belongs to animals. You're not an animal, okay? But the fact that you keep trying to become part of animals and you're trying to do the Darwinistic thing, which comes from the Carl Linnaeus thing, that's why you're trying to do the animal-like behavior and trying to talk about race. So race, period, is not even a thing. It's a competition. And Carl Linnaeus took that competition and said animals compete against each other, so human beings must compete against each other as well. And here's the order of human being by color, gave them Latin names so they'd be scientific. And then here comes Charles Darwin to write his book, The Origin of Species, Theory of Evolution, the origin of species by means of natural selection, or the struggle for survival of favored races. That's the name of his book, written in 1859. Supported by royal, geological, and Linnaean groups who uphold that doctrine. It's written in the title. We are all came from the same people. We all are one. But once again, it depends on what you're doing. Because if you are with us, right, my friend, right? I see Crystal. Well, I don't want to, or is it Krista? I'm not even sure. I don't want to assume male, female, whatever, right? But you are my family if you are like-minded, of course. Not all skin folk is kinfolk. Just because I'm speaking on wickedness doesn't mean that I think that just because somebody looks like me, they're better than somebody who doesn't look like me. That's not what we're talking about right now, right? It's Crystal with a K. Okay, so that's not what I'm talking about, right? You see what I'm saying? If we're not careful, we're using somebody else's construct to continue this conversation. That's not what I'm talking about, right? So what I'm saying, though, that doesn't negate, right? Like I can talk about Africans that enslaved Africans. I can talk about Africans that enslaved Greeks, even though that word slave is not exactly the same term, but we just use one term and try to use it as a catch-all, right? Just like slave came from the word Slav. And so Slavic people were definitely not treated like a lot of Greek people that were treated when they were put in bonds and in chains. But nevertheless, right? We can go through all that. But at the end of the day, what I'm trying to tell you is the social construct. This is where they got us. This is where they got us, right? This is why we even have to have these conversations. Who had it better? Who had it better? So I'm going to agree with you, but disagree with you at the same time. Context, right? Who had it better? The overseer or the house Negro? This is where the slave master or the teacher of slaves, right? Master is a teacher. That's the context of today. Who had it better? Who had it better? The slave or the house slave or the overseer? Now, the field slave had it worse, even though the field slave sometimes might have better housing than the overseer as well. But who had it better? The house Negro, right? The house Negro or the overseer? Said they were both forms of slavery? No. They were both mentally enslaved, but no, right? Overseer ate better. The overseer got to whip the slaves. The overseer sometimes gave permission to the slaves to whip each other instead of him whip them, or else, he might kill them. And so he got them. That's why we get terms that we still use today, like, I only whip you because I love you. Well, I'll whip you because I love you, because the overseer, if he whips you, is going to be better. So I'd rather whip you. You hear people say this still to this day, right? I'll whip you now so that you don't get whipped by them later. But here's the deal, right? The overseer was white, and that was a social construct, not your construct. You didn't create it, not mine, right? But that's something that existed, right? That's why we should read books like by Dr. Joy DeGroy, PTSS, Post-Traumatic Slave Syndrome, to be able to figure out that we still have a lot of disorders that all of us are carrying by the same slave master. That got us to believe some stuff that really doesn't matter, but that's what they use to control and manipulate. So we agree on that. We agree on that, right? Now, after all is being said, the house Negro actually lived better than the overseer, because the overseer lived in the same conditions as the field slaves. And oftentimes the field slave, because they had to have work, they had to have trade, oftentimes the field Negro could be able to do, the field slave could be able to do more work to keep his house in order, keep his cabin in order. And his cabin was usually miles away, so he could go and take care of his stuff way better than the overseer would. And then from time to time, the overseers would go visit him, get jealous, and break their stuff apart. So the overseer actually had it bad, but what made him better in his mind, he was enslaved in his mind. He thought that he was better because he was white. And you can say he didn't have the privilege because he still was mentally enslaved. But let's keep it a buck. Somebody who can eat better than you, somebody that can dress better than you, somebody that can whip you, spit on you, or whatever, and even be less educated than you, but just because of skin color, yeah, there's certain privileges that come with that, even if they are still living in squalor, right? But at the same time, the house Negro, he was really messed up because he thought he was worse than the overseer, although he lived better than the overseer, right? Or she, right? They thought that they were eating well. Like the overseer ate real food. They thought they ate real food, even though the overseer didn't eat like the master either. But they thought that they ate well because the master left them scraps, right? Better scraps than the field Negro. So they even started separating themselves from their own people. The overseer didn't realize he was separating himself from his own people because he was thinking he was just white, even though his slave master lived better than him. So he was already separate. He didn't really get it though. So he was messed up too. But the house Negro thought that they were better because they were in the master's house. This is why the house Negro would fight harder to put the blaze out of the master's house than the master did himself. You know why? Because the only thing the house Negro had that made him better than his own people was the house. So if the master's house burned down, it was a bad thing, but the master was still going to be the master. He was still going to be white, and everybody else was going to rebuild his stuff anyways. Meanwhile, though, right, and the overseer was still going to be white and still be allowed to beat whatever needed to be beat, and still be able to eat better than everybody else was, except the master. This is why back in the day you would call the master the king, and you call these other people lords. Back in the day, you would call them kings and you would call them lords. So the overseers were lords, and although the lords were really on the same level as the people, these particular lords, they weren't quite as the feudal lords, but these particular lords really were on the same level as the people, which everybody should have realized and recognized made them all the same. They had been taught themselves. Matter of fact, read the Willie Lynch letter. One of the things that we kind of skip over when we talk about the Willie Lynch letter, don't skip over the first page to where it says that the responsibility of every slave master was to make sure that that the overseers were taught to distrust black people, that black people were taught to distrust black people, and that their families were taught. So this is how it would work. This is how it would work. Let's say the slave master comes home. He's sitting there with his family. He's got his slave master wife. He's got his slave master children. Everything's right with the world. They start having a conversation, and all the slaves are walking around and feeding them and serving them and doing all this stuff. And they're at the dinner table, and then all of a sudden all of a sudden one of his children says something like, "Man, father, N-word, N-word, N-words. Let's just use one that we're comfortable with saying because we read it so much. N-word Jim has been doing so well. N-word Jim's just been helping, and he's been smiling, and he's been doing. And then the daughter says, yeah. And so the son says, the daughter says, yeah, N-word Jim, he helped me. I dropped my doll, and he went down there, and he got it. He made sure he cleaned it up. N-word Jim is just he's a swell feller. Actually, they wouldn't have spoke like that because they would have been more educated, right? Right? He's a fantastic slave, right? And then the wife says, yes, N-word Jim has been such a blessing to us in so many different ways. You know what, honey? I think we should go ahead and make sure that N-word Jim maybe gets a couple days. He can't get a couple days off, but maybe he can get a couple days to where he just starts at 10 a.m. instead of 8 a.m. And it was the responsibility of the father to say, hey, N-word Jim is an N-word. Don't talk about him as anything other. Don't forget your place. Don't forget his place. Why? Because he represented great capital. He represented good business. He represented good economics. To have him think of himself outside of the parameters of which other people had put made him to be something that he was not, right? Or made him something that the system said he was not. Right? None of us should be into slavery of any way. This is what we're talking about. And once again, people get caught. And I'm having to explain it because everybody's trying to make this Republican versus Democrat thing or white versus black thing or whatever. Hear what I'm saying. I'm not any of those things. I don't mind being black on black, just not black on paper. But where I come from, it's okay to be black. But on paper, in the United States Corporation, they say that it has no status, and they say it's an artificial person anyways. By the way, the word white is not a color anyways. You cannot be a white person because white means the absence of color, reflective. It means see-through. It means bright. Snowflakes are white. What color are snowflakes? They have no color. White blood cells are white. What color are white blood cells? They have no color. They're white. Right? So for you to exist, you must have melanin. Melanin gives you color. Okay? Some part of your body must have some kind of melanin in it in order for you to survive, just like there cannot be plants without chlorophyll. The way chlorophyll works for plants is the way that melanin works for people. And you don't measure melanin from the outside in, by the way, you measure it from the inside out. So what I'm trying to get you to see is what they did. And by the way, did I not talk about what they did to Irish people? Did I not talk about what they did to Slavic people? Right? So it's not just one group of people. Did I not say that they're black people that make black people if we're going to use those social constructs? Of course. What I'm trying to get you to see is get past that. You're having a bad conversation. You're having a bad reference point. You're coming to me with something that's not even my culture's identity, nor do we look at people like that. The Most High doesn't look at you like that. The system does, though. That's why the system is sus. This is why you have to begin to master yourselves. In order to be a master, you must be a teacher. But every teacher, every master starts off as a disciple. You start off as the very thing that now, when you become a master, now it is on you to make disciples. Did you catch that? You said albino? Yeah, albino people still have to have melanin, which means that they have to have something that gives them color in some way, shape, or form. Even the whitest of white people, once again, did you miss what I said? You don't measure melanin from the outside in, you measure it from the inside out. Look it up scientifically, you know what I'm saying? Right? You see what I'm saying? So culturally speaking, even in the Western science, in their culture, they still recognize that melanin is not talking about just what you look on the outside. You can be light-skinned and still be melanated. You can be dark-skinned and still be melanated. If you are alive, you are melanated. Now, if you want to talk about who's more or less, you can't always judge it once again from the outside in, although the outside in usually majority of the time will work, but it's not always that's not always the way you can tell somebody. Once again, this is why you had stuff that even of another culture they called the one drop rule. Right? We have to be careful that we don't sound like the oppressor. The oppressor is the one that got you to believe that there's a difference between a white. First of all, the oppressor is the one that got you to believe that white's a color. Outright. See, and people are arguing and not realizing that's not my culture. I've gotten past that a long time ago when I realized that somebody had to make up the color white. White was never supposed to be a color. White is not a color. Black is a color. It's right. I know y'all don't like it. or if you want to say black is a darker shade, fine. We're all darker shades, whatever. It's all energy. It's all frequency. It's the way that the sun reflects, this and that, or whatever. The Most High, when he created all, and he, by the way, doesn't mean male or female, because in our culture, Elohim is neither male nor female. Anything in heaven is neither male nor female, or is it married, right? Anything that's married has to be married from heaven to earth, or has to be married from earth to earth, right? But nobody in heaven is male or female, right? That's why the Father in our culture, see, this is why when you're reading stuff like this, you guys are reading stuff from somebody else's point of view. You're reading it through what you would call a patriarchal point of view, a Greco-Roman, a romantic point of view. That's not our culture. So when I say he, and I'm talking about Elohim, or I'm talking about Abba specifically, Abba is talking about who? The Father, but Father means source, and the same Father that has the seed that he might be able to implant in your womb to help you to be able to be impregnated and give to bear much fruit, and therefore the fruit be ate, so that seed might be able to flow all over the place, is also the same Father who says you can suckle from his bosom, because he is neither male nor female. But on earth there's male and female as a representation of how he should be married to us. But he is not married to anybody in heaven. He is married to us on earth. This is how it works. Marriage is not for those in heaven. Marriage is not from somebody who's heavenly and heavenly. But see, once again, the context, you got to master yourself. You said you have an albino child with eyes you can see through. Hey, that's cool. I bet you at some point, if you see through them, there's some part of them that, well, never mind. I'll get over it, right? At the end of the day, melanin is where is you can't exist without melanin, right? We'll just put it like that. I think, right? Just like plants don't exist without chlorophyll, people do not exist without melanin, animals do not exist without melanin, right? It's in everything just about. All right. And even in our culture, see, people will try to tell you what marriage is. Once again, in our culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. But then again, in your culture, sex is marriage, marriage is sex. You think marriage is walking down the aisle. You think marriage is at the courtroom. You think marriage is registering it with the state. Because even your marriage is registered with the state. I don't know what's going on today, all this craziness. Right? Even with your marriage is registered with the state. Hear what I'm saying? Even with your marriage is registered by the state, guess what? Even with your marriage is registered by the state, you have to consummate it. If you do not consummate your marriage, yes, marriage, you should be committed. But okay. See, this is why we got to talk about our culture. You need to know what your culture is. Sex is marriage, marriage is sex. If you're going to talk about marriage and sacrifice, this and that, or whatever, yes, but this is our culture. I'm going to speak my culture. I don't know what your culture is. I'm going to speak my culture real quick, right? You ready? Marriage is sex, sex is marriage. Even in your own culture, you have to have sex in order for your marriage to actually count. If you don't have sex, then your marriage can be annulled. Look it up. That's lawful, right? That's if you register your marriage with the state, but you don't have to, right? Now, in our culture, you're taught marriage differently. See, in our culture, the first 3 years of life, right, really ages 0 to 3, because you're already alive in the womb. Nevertheless, though, right, this is our culture. In our culture, ages 0 to 3, you train them as a male or female. Ages 4 to 6, you start to wean the son away from his mother, not off of her breast. That's probably already happened, but you wean him away to where he's spending less time with her. The daughter starts spending a little less time with the father, but at the same time starts doing more things the mother does. Why? Because at ages 7 to 9, you become your parent's apprentice. Whatever daddy does is what you do, which is why we homeschool our own children, or we would teach them at home. So because you are going to keep the business, the family business, the family wealth going. Right. Meanwhile, the daughter is learning things from the mother while being protected by the father at the same time, while the son still gets love from the mother at the same time. Right. Now, ages 10 to 12, you begin to get really deep into their education. Right. The things that they're going to do, especially business wise, and especially as far as certain things, they need to learn those things. Then ages 13 to 15, you start teaching them what it is as far as our canonical viewpoint. Why do you do that? Because at age 16, they become man or woman. But they're still not trained in life yet. Ages 16 to 18, you got to train them on what it is to be a husband or a wife, because in our culture, you must be pre-qualified to be a husband or a wife. And your culture, you guys want to be pre-qualified to drive. You guys want to be pre-qualified to get your hair done. You want to get pre-qualified to cut heads. You want to be pre-qualified to do tattoos. You want to be pre-qualified for all these different things, but you don't want to be pre-qualified for marriage. They don't teach that in school. You don't teach it at home. None of that. You just say, we'll teach you to be a great person. And then hopefully when you get married, somebody will realize the value in your being being a great person, but not know how to treat you as a husband or wife. This is why in our culture it says, he who finds a wife, you find somebody already qualified. He who finds a wife find a great thing and obtain a favor from a dawn. And in our culture, every husband must already be in his work, not have a 9-to-5 job. He should already be in his work, because you cannot never retire from your work. And so if you meet a husband, or if you meet a husband who has a mission, because it's not called submission, you don't submit to a man, you submit to what? The mission. If you meet a husband who has a mission when he presents himself, you are in an awesome place, right? And then the next 3 years, the last 3 years, ages 19 to 21, you teach that person what it is to be a mother and a father. Then the daughter, she will stay in her father's house, although she can have whatever job, whatever business, she can do whatever she wants, she could travel, but she's in her father's house because we believe in protecting our women, right? Protecting not just their virtue, not just protecting their ability to serve, but also protecting them as far as making sure that they feel like they are respected in their divine nature, in their intuition, in their spirituality, all those things. Then the husband, right, who's already been trained, the man, right, he gets an inheritance then, and he leaves. He gets his inheritance right there. He leaves his father's house. We say, thank you so much. We believe in you. We trained you. The community agrees. Go ahead, go out there and get your own land and do the things that we've taught you how to do. Then once he gets that together, in his work, he will come across his wife. He will then check her out. He will then ask people questions about her. He will then present himself with his basically with his own stuff, saying, hey, this is what I can provide as a husband. This is what I think my mission is. I'd like to know your mission. I'd like to know things about you. This is my baggage. This is the things that I'm going to do to be better. This is my family lineage, etc. And then she decides whether or not he's worthy of being her husband, right? And she wants to even become his wife. She sees his mission and sees if she wants to submit to the mission. Once again, it's not submission and it's not subwomanship either. It's called submission. So we check out each other's missions. If that works, then the families get involved and we see if this is going to work out. And then the wife goes and prepares herself for him. And he goes back to his father's house, builds on that, because his father and their family are going to be the main ones responsible for making sure their families work. Because we're going to teach them now family to family, not just all the stuff we did lifestyle wise, but we're going to make sure they know how to take care of babies. We're going to make sure that baby girl, the wife who's coming into our family, she's going to get rest, all these different things, right? That would have been taught from birth. Now, what you guys do is you guys go out and y'all just say, I want to get married. You guys might meet each other in Vegas and the next night get married. You guys might date for 7 years and then maybe you decide to get married, right? You guys go, well, we'll go out on date and date after date, but you never see dating in the Bible, right? You show me the biblical verse that tells you about dating. You see what I'm saying? You have to be taught different. When did you start teaching yourself? Where in the Bible, where in any of these canons that you're looking at, for real, where do they talk about dressing in a white dress and walking down the aisle? That's not canonical. That's not biblical. That's not spiritual. That comes from Queen Victoria. And you're Victorian. So you do what the Queen did. Once again, the culture speaks. You're doing what the Queen did. That's it. You could try and say that I'm wrong, this and that. You're taking somebody's culture and you're just repeating it. What's the reason why you kiss? Because consummation is supposed to be when you have sex. That consummates the marriage. If your marriage is not consummated, it doesn't count, right? So sex is marriage, marriage is sex. You've been taught by community, have as much sex as you want with as many different people, right? But you don't even realize, no matter if you wear a condom or not, no matter if you got a diaphragm in or not, right? No matter if y'all kissing or not, no matter if you do oral or not, whatever y'all do, like once you have sex with somebody, your DNA becomes one, two become one. You see what I'm saying? So we're having a conversation outside of even what is considered to be cultural, even in your culture, because people don't have to teach you culture. They just teach you whatever. And how do you become a wife? Or you make a decision. Do you want to become one? If you want to become one, you can start learning. You can start the journey. We talk about it a lot on here. And if you go to our YouTube channel, we got a lot of recordings. If you look on it, we got a lot of stuff on marriage. We do marriage class. We have a lot of different things, right? But it starts with a community. The community you're part of, the corporation you're part of, they don't teach you about marriage. They teach you about breeding. And I'm not talking about just spiritually, you become one with the person as far as soul ties, even though soul ties are important. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm talking about straight up, if you research it, your DNA gets lodged in the other person's brain because you were only designed to have sex or become one with one person. That's how you were designed. That's why a lot of you have problems forgetting your first, Or if you have multiple partners, I'm not here to slut shame male or female, by the way, because both can be sluts, I guess. Right? But I'm not here to slut shame anybody. I'm here to tell you the truth. You were not designed to have multiple partners. That's not how your body's designed. You were not designed to have multiple experiences. That's trauma you're bringing. That's why we have something called nostalgic trauma that we talked about a little while ago. You think that all nostalgia is positive. No, there's a lot of things that are nostalgic that are traumatic. It's traumatic when you've got to try and have sex with somebody and try your best to erase the thoughts of the other person you used to have sex with. That's trauma. I'm trying to hang in there. I don't have that much battery, so we won't be able to do our normal shout out today at the end. But that's trauma you're dealing in. You hear what I'm saying? You're dealing in trauma. You've registered with the state for your marriage for more trauma. That's traumatic. Where you got to try now to erase. They got you into pornography. So now you're trying your best to have marriage, have sex, but at the same time you're trying to not deal with porneia, which is considered to be a false image of marriage, right? False image of marriage is fornication. You're trying not to commit fornication and therefore, in a sense, commit adultery while you're trying to get in the mood with somebody else. Right? We got to begin to teach ourselves. Nobody's teaching us this. How you have pulpits all around America, pulpits all around Africa, pulpits all around South America, pulpits all around Canada, Mexico, right? Pulpits all around London, wherever. And nobody's telling you that this stuff is happening. Might I submit to you that it's because they don't really care? I won't say they don't care at all, but let's keep it a buck, right? Somebody should care enough about you to tell you this stuff is going on. Right? Somebody should tell you enough that there's a reason why these things are problematic. I love motivational speaking. I do it. Right? I'm pretty great at it. However, I'm never going to be the motivational speaker to tell you the reason why this is happening to you is because you're not ignoring it. Ignore that stuff. It doesn't matter. I'm never going to be the guy to talk about facts over feelings because your feelings are factual. Now, your feelings might be based off of things that are not facts, but let's not act like if something like this is one of the worst things you can do. You married to somebody, your spouse is angry. You start saying, you're not really angry. You're not this. You're not. No. They angry. Let them be angry. Just make sure they sin not. Right? Now, once they finish being angry, or once you even empathize with their anger, which will help calm them down, then let's see now if what your anger is based off of is reality. That's the conversation. But y'all don't do that. You've been taught to argue. Your feelings don't matter. Why not? You see, the Democrats, they're too much into feelings. They're all snowflakes. See, the Republicans, they are so busy saying fake news. Y'all aren't even talking right. You hear what I'm saying? Like you're fighting a fight that's not your fight. You're fighting against people that aren't even that aren't even against your people sometimes. You hear what I'm saying? Like this is not some of the stuff that you've been hearing. This is not your culture. Or if you're going to subscribe to this culture, it's not this culture. If you're going to pick this up, stop telling me, look, I'm not trying to tell you that every Christian is evil. Hear what I'm saying, though? This existed before Christianity. Stop telling me a Christian version of this. I know you don't want to hear that. But once again, you got to learn to teach yourself. Say what you will. You got to learn how to teach yourself. You have not mastered yourselves. Moses existed before Christianity. Joshua existed before Christianity. Abraham existed before Christianity. David existed before Christianity. Solomon existed before Christianity. Paul existed before Christianity. Yehoshua, the Messiah, existed before Christianity. You cannot tell me about Cristianos. Matter of fact, if you don't know where the word Cristianos comes from, maybe you shouldn't use it. Enoch existed before Christianity. Jasher existed before Christianity. Jubilees existed before. You hear what I'm saying? Like these things existed before, but we keep looking for Christianity. Well, first of all, you're talking about Latin for sure, but what does the term Christianos mean when the Romans were using it? Right? Because let's make sure we're contextual. We don't want context without facts or facts without context. Right? What did the Romans, right? What were the Romans trying to do? Amen. That 1611 version, as long as it doesn't have the letter J in it, the 1611 version is going to bless you. It'll bless you regardless, but without the letter J in it, that's the authentic, right? So when they said Cristianos, that was a mix. That was a mix of iron and clay. You're warned about that in Daniel chapter 2. Right? That's what Christianity is. As a matter of fact, people didn't like Christians not because of what they believed in. People didn't like Christians because they mix and match too much. That's why if you called yourself a Christian or Cristianos, they actually used to be like, oh, they used to be like, poor you, right? Because you were mixing and matching too many different things that you didn't even know how to do their version. That's why Christmas is the least Christian thing out there. Not just because of the tree in Jeremiah chapter 10, verses 1-5, and us making idols out of trees, and it literally saying, don't be like the pagans, don't be afraid of changing the seasons, don't go out into the woods, don't chop down a tree, don't drag it into your house, don't nail it so it stands straight up, don't paint it silver and gold, and yet you sing songs with silver and gold in the lyrics, right? But even besides that, Christmas is the least Christian holiday, or is the least Christian holiday, and it's the least biblical holiday on top of that. Why? Because it's a holiday for witches. More witches celebrate Christmas than Christians do. At least by percentage. Maybe let's do that. Because some of y'all will say, oh no, well, there's more Christians all over the world. So let's say by percentage. Because I don't want to argue that right now. Right? But by percent, there's more people in witchcraft who are witches. There are more witches that will make sure that they celebrate Christmas than Christians. And the only reason why you try to say it's Christmas is because you try to say Christ was born then. But you can't do that if you know the culture. Why? Because Christ would have been how old? How old was Christ? Somebody help me out. How old was Christ? We know how, or let's put it like this. How long was Christ's ministry? Y'all like to use that term for everything. So how long was Christ's ministry? When he got baptized to when he died, how long was that period? That was 3.5 years. A time times and half a time. A time is considered to be a year, times is 2 years, half a time would therefore be 6 months. All right, so 33.5 years. All right, or 3.5 years. Now, Christ was baptized, right? And he started becoming a rabbi or a rabbi. What significance does that have in the culture? What significance does that have in the culture? Right? Well, if Christ is baptized and he became a rabbi at that moment, we know that he had to be 30 years old. Now, can we deem exactly, even though if you look in the Bible, if you know what tribes were responsible for what sacrifices and what festivals and things like that, you can actually track and trace what I'm saying to be even more so true. But nevertheless, we'll leave it surface level for today, right? If Christ he turns 30, he gets baptized on his 30th born day, because in our culture, you cannot be a rabbi until you're 30. I know people are out here becoming rabbis at 7 years old now, and y'all love to get the word. I'm not saying a 7-year-old can't get a word, right? But we'll give a word. But I'm saying is he ain't supposed to be no rabbi. He's not supposed to be no pastor. He's not supposed to be an apostle at 17. All this stuff that people are doing, right? Those things we don't operate like that, right? Never have and never will. So if anybody's operating like that, that's not you. That's not your culture. That's not your belief system, right? So Christ gets baptized when he's 30 years of age. At 30 years of age, he does what? 3.5 years of what you call ministry. So so he did for 3.5 years. So that's six months added to something, right? So he got baptized, 3.5 years, he does his stuff, 30th born day, more than likely, he gets baptized. Once he gets baptized by John, 3.5 years later, he died. He gives up the ghost. Question: what day did he give up the ghost? What day did they come and seize him? What day did he give up the ghost? See how this stuff works? See how this works? You said it's actually supposed to be 40. Well, I mean, if that's what you want to go by, that's not necessarily what the culture is. Now, if you're talking about Jewish stuff, you're talking about Ashkenazi versus Sephardic or other things, that, we might have to talk about that and talk about Talmudic viewpoint versus Tanakh. But, to each their own on that, right? For today, this is what I'm going to go ahead and give us, and this will be our where we're going to be at or whatever. Okay, 40 is now, if you want to talk about husbands, some people didn't even become husbands until they were 40. But as far as like starting the Passover, whatever, right? But let's just see as far as this. So Christ, he starts at 30 years old. 3.5 years after that, he dies, or he gives up the ghost. He gives up the ghost around Passover. If he gives up the ghost of Passover, and I apologize for those that are coming in, appreciate you coming in. I'm running out of battery, and I can't really see now. The sun is kind of like shining right on y'all, so I'm gonna kind of rush through this in to make sure that we get all this stuff in there before we take our leave, and I get ready to get on the road. But yeah, so if Christ, so hear what I'm saying now. Christ, 3.5 years after he dies on the night of Passover, he gives up the ghost on the night of Passover. Correct? Christ gives up the ghost on the night of Passover. He dies for us on the night of Passover, right? That's normally going to be late March or early April. So let's just come to a compromise. Let's say April 1st. So we have 6 months after that. That would be half a time, half a year. So what's 6 months after that? May, June, July, August, September, October. October, somewhere around October 1st, which matches up as far as law, the Day of Atonement, which if you look in the other scriptures I was telling you about, like if you do some research, go down the rabbit hole, you'll discover that the tribe that would have been in charge of the Day of Atonement is mentioned around the time that he would have been born. So that means he was born, if not on the Day of Atonement, somewhere around the Day of Atonement. Why is that important? Because he is the atonement for us. He's the ultimate atonement, to where at that point we don't have to have the priest go behind the curtain, but now we can go to the Most High for ourselves. This is culture that's telling you all this, right? But you have to what? You have to be able to be we have not mastered ourselves. What does master mean again? Master means teacher. We have not mastered ourselves. We have not taught ourselves, and we have not taught ourselves for so long that now we have become ignorant, right? And thank you for the love. We have become ignorant of who we are and who we're supposed to be. We have become ignorant of these things. We've become so ignorant that now we are taking on other people's culture so much and thinking that the person who wants to deny you of who you are is the person you should be listening to. And they do not get to say who you are, at least not anymore. Now, if you want to keep giving it, that's fine. But as far as for me and my house, and the word house means family. Joshua wasn't just talking about my wife and my children. He said, everybody that's in my family, as for us, as for me and my house, we shall serve Adon. That means we got to be correct in everything in order to serve him and in order to service others. Right? In order to serve him and to serve others. What's Matthew chapter 6, verse 5 day? Are you talking what's Matthew chapter 6, verse 5 say? What's that to be? Or Matthew chapter 6, verse 5, actually. Because Matthew chapter 6, we're getting into, so that's either what, how to pray, or don't be like the religious leaders when they pray, or don't be like them when they give. Right? That's what we're talking about there. Don't be like the religious leaders when they pray, or don't be like them when they give. Probably when they pray, right? Because then after that, Matthew chapter 6, verse 9 is when you pray, pray in this manner. Don't pray these exact words, but pray like this: Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name, etc. Right? Right? So, but when we're dealing with this stuff, you got to teach yourself. And they said, Master, teach us how to pray. Teach us how to pray. Right? That's what he's right. That's why it actually starts like that. When he says, when you pray, pray like this. Look at the other scriptures that go from the other, what y'all call the synoptic gospels, because you're still in the God spells. But when you call it the four synoptic gospels, look at the other ones that talk about the same account. They asked him a question after he was sitting there teaching others. They said, Master, teach us how to pray. And that's when he said, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And it says our, first of all. It doesn't say everybody's. It says our Father. Father means source, right? That's why Yahshua talked to Israelites, and he told some of them, you are of your father, the devil. This is why Paul tells you, right, after you talk about saved and salvation in Romans 10, 9, and 10, he tells you in verse 16, he quotes Isaiah or Yesaiah, and he says, who shall believe our report? This is not everybody's. right? This is not for everybody. If you choose to uphold law and keep all of it, keep all of the commandments. Yahshua says in Matthew chapter 5, verse 10 through 12, still on let's go back to the Sermon on the Mount. That's our sweet spot, by the way. So I love when people talk Sermon on the Mount. Matthew 5, 10 through 12, right? It says what? It says there, blessed is it when men rebuke you and revile you and say all manner of evil against you, right? For they said the same thing about the prophets. They did the same thing to them. When they say that about you, rejoice and be exceeding glad. Be excited about it when they say that stuff about you, right? Then it says what? Then it says in Matthew chapter 5, verses 17 through 20. Verse 17 says, do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. Same thing. People try to destroy you, to try and destroy us. That's that Nicolaitan doctrine that you should know about in Revelation chapter 3, verse 15, and that Balaam doctrine that we've gone over before that you should know about. That's Revelation chapter 3, verse 14. A lot of you don't even know what that is. Balaam doctrine is doctrine specifically made to try and cause Israel to go away from who they are, because if Israel goes away from who they are, then they will not be able to live in the blessings, but they will live in the curses. It's literally in scripture, right? We went over that before, right? So you can go look for that yourself. Balaam doctrine, right? Is that Numbers chapter 22? I think that's where we started. We went Numbers 22, 23, 24, 25, right? So look it up and see what happened and how they tried to get Balaam to go against the children of the Most High. He was a prophet, and they tried to get him to go against the children of the Most High. The enemy hired him to go against the children of the Most High, knowing that if he could get the children of the Most High to go against the stuff, that he wouldn't have to worry about the power of Israel, because Israel had been waxing everybody with the help of Yahweh. And they were afraid of what was going to happen. So Revelation chapter 3, verse 14 tells you specifically, stay away from Balaam doctrine, because there's still people out here who are trying to get Israel or get prophets to be able to speak against Israel. Said no man is God. I don't worship God, so that's not a problem for me, right? You got to get with the culture that I'm talking about, right? I don't know if that's where you're coming from. Now, let me not assume that's what we're talking about, but nevertheless, right? God is, you're talking about Germanic stuff. If you're talking about Israelite stuff, let's keep it to this, right? Are we talking about Jesus? No man is God, or no man is Jesus? Okay, I don't worship Jesus either. That's half man, half Zeus, right? But anyways, so we go there, Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Right? We're talking about different cultures, right? Once again, if you're talking about something that's a Christian thing or whatever, like, then we can have that conversation later. I'm running out of battery though. I got to stay on target, right? So Matthew chapter 5, verse 17. Do not think that I came to destroy the law or the prophets. I came not to destroy, but I came that it would be fulfilled. That word fulfilled means I'm going towards the end. Good for me. Okay, if you're here to win, then you win. Okay, you be right. I'm worried about being righteous. If you want to actually ask me questions, feel free to look up ways that you can actually contact me or whatever. I have no problem talking to people as human beings. If not, then if you're here to be a troll away, right? I don't have time, right? So Matthew 5:17. Now Matthew 5:18 tells you that in verse 17, when it says to be fulfilled, it means it's going towards an end. It means like it's going towards an expected end. There's a vision on it, right? Now, Matthew chapter 5, verse 18. Matthew chapter 5, verse 18 comes behind that and says that until earth passes away, not one jot or tittle should be changed. That means the most minuscule of measurements, and it also means the handwriting of the Most High. All right? I didn't see your genuine question. I'm sorry. Once again, I got the sun. I'm trying to catch all the stuff. I apologize. I'm a human being. I might not be catching everything. I was talking about the one person on there who was already dealt with. So if the shoe fits weird, if it doesn't, take it off. There's a whole bunch of people we're talking to on many different platforms all the time. I might be talking to you, might not. Please don't take offense. I don't know what the exact question was. So I apologize. If you'd like us to deal with it, maybe you can try to reach out to us through some of the information we're going to put up on the screen in a second. Or if you want to look on TikTok, if you want to click on our link tree, and you can find ways to be able to contact us there. If you want to look at these videos, to be able to go through some of the stuff, because we have a whole lot of stuff on there that you can literally just watch on our YouTube channel to catch up and find different things that are going on. All right. But I'm sorry. Please don't take offense. All right. But I've really got to finish up because I'm getting, I'm losing the, literally about to lose battery. Okay, battery life is pretty much at its end, at least on the phone. Okay, and that also means it's going to be done on YouTube because I'm using that as a hotspot. All right, so I just got to finish up. Sorry. Matthew 5:17. So Matthew 5:18 says we need to know the most minuscule of measurements, and we need to know exactly how it was written. Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. This is all Yeshua speaking, the Messiah. Matthew chapter 5, verse 19 comes behind that and says what? It says, anyone who teaches people not to live by the law and doesn't live by the law themselves, they are considered to be the least in the kingdom. But those that live by the law and teach others how to live by it, they're considered to be the greatest. And then Matthew chapter 5, verse 20, it says, it says that you should know the law greater than the scribes and the Pharisees. What does that mean? That means you should know it better than those that write it, and you should know it better than those that what? That even teach it or that try to rule over you with it. Okay? Now, Matthew chapter 7, verse 12, which you think is the golden rule, but you only use half of what you say is the golden rule. What's the golden rule? First golden rule says what? First part of the golden rule, which is the only part that you know, is what? Give unto others, right? Do unto others, rather, as you want done unto you. But the complete golden rule is do unto others as you want done unto you, for this is the law and the prophets. All through the Sermon on the Mount, we're talking about law and prophets. Now, prophets are people who are supposed to be Yah's mouthpiece and speak the truth and never go away from it, right? Which we're missing a lot of, right? That's why Romans chapter 10, verse 13 through 16 says, if you, it says it like this. Romans chapter 10, verse 13 through 16 says, anyone who calls upon the name of the Lord, they shall be saved. But how can one be saved if they don't believe? And how can one believe what they haven't heard? And how can one hear if it's not being preached? And how can one preach it if it's not being, if they haven't been sent by the Most High and they don't walk in the way? For how beautiful are the feet of those who walk in the way. So now, verse 16 says, who shall believe our report? Have you educated yourselves? Have you taught yourselves? Have you studied within your culture? Do you know what the people meant when they said it? Because if not, then you're not being honest and you're not being intellectually honest in these conversations that you're having. No matter how much provocation is involved, right? Your intellectual honesty is lacking. Now, all that being said, if you still don't believe that this is not for everybody, if you still have issues with me saying that it's not for everybody, if you still think that what I'm saying is something that I'm just trying to get over on you on, because some of you do, I apologize. We're not gonna be able to do our shout out at all. I've been trying to press the button this whole time to make sure we can do our shout out, and it's not letting me press it for whatever reason. So it is what it is. If you need to get in contact with us, if you're on YouTube, you already know, click in the description in the bottom, any of the stuff that's there to be able to contact us. Don't forget that we have our stuff that's coming out on videos and all these platforms for on Sunday, 4:00 p.m. Eastern New York time, by the way, just in case I get cut off before we get to talk about that. And those that are going to be meeting with us in the New Jersey, Philadelphia border, whatever over there. If you want to meet with us, that'll be both this Saturday and Sunday if you want to do so. Amen. All right. We need to know who's coming, by the way, because we need to feed y'all. Hallelujah. So if you're going to be meeting us over there when we get up there this weekend, we will be leaving this weekend and on the road as soon as we finish with our children, teaching our children this weekend. So if you need to if you want to meet up with us over there, if you're in that area, reach out to us, let us know. All right. But anyways, what are we saying? What was I saying? Sorry. Oh yeah. So lastly, to show you that you need to know where this is, who this is, what this is about. And by the way, there's more ways you can reach out to us. We have people all around. We have people that call and check on each other. We have people that are working towards getting our land together, all this stuff. So there's more than what we do just off of this live session. So please feel free. If you're on TikTok, all you got to do is go to our main page, click on the link tree, and somebody will get back to you ASAP. Okay. But last but not least, let's get this in. Last but not least, and I'm sorry for all the noise. I apologize. I really do. Last but not least, Matthew chapter 13. It has a whole bunch of parables talking about what the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven is like seeds that are sown into the ground. The kingdom of heaven is like the wheat and the tare. The kingdom of heaven is like the pearl, a great pearl. The kingdom of heaven is like a is like a treasure hidden in the midst of the field. The kingdom of heaven is like a net that drags down on the bottom of the water, right? But when you hear him talking about the kingdom of heaven, it's like a seed that's sown, and some of it, was caught up by the sun and scorched by the sun and caught up by the birds, and some of it grew a little bit, but didn't have enough roots. Some of it was choked up by weeds of life, and some of it grew 30, 60, and 100 fold. His disciples come to him, they ask him a question. His disciples come to him and ask him a question. Once again, if you'd like more information, feel free to reach out to us. I'm not going to go ahead and put it out in public, at least not today. It may be on Sunday I would put it out, but I wouldn't even put it out for Saturday. Try to be very protective of when we do these meetups. right? So if you'd like more information, once again, go on TikTok, click on the link tree. Feel free to reach out to us. If you try to DM us, I will try to get back to you, as I said, but I don't really do that well with DMs, because DMs, I get a lot of them. So it's very hard for me. And when I catch up on them, I'm catching up on thousands of them sometimes, trying to pick out which ones, I can actually read. You hear what I'm saying? So I'll try my best. I've been trying actually to put up our information. It will not let me click on the screen to be able to. Normally I can just use the green screen. I don't think they want me using it for some reason today. I use it all the time, but they don't like the way I use it. So, but anyways, but Matthew chapter 13, last thing. The disciples ask him in verse 9, he says, those who have an ear to hear, let them hear. Right? Verse 10, his disciples say, why are you always speaking to your people in parables? Why are you always speaking to them in parables? Now notice, they didn't say, why are you always speaking to us in parables? They said, why are you always speaking to them in parables? Not us, but them. This is what Yehoshua says. He says, I speak to them in parables because it is not for them to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven. Now, for a lot of us, we go, wait, a minute, hold on. The kingdom of heaven is for everybody. No. It's not for everybody. Yahshua says it is not for them to know. Know means to be intimate with. It's not for them to be intimate to the point of having fruit that creates seed to go on for generations. It's not for them to be part of this. He says, you guys have been with me, you travel with me, y'all go everywhere, we sleep together, we do all these different things or whatever. You guys have given up on, family lives and all this stuff. Y'all are all this. He said, it's not for them. He said, I speak to them in other words, when I speak to them in the parable, what's a parable to them shouldn't be a parable to you, because you should know how the kingdom operates. You should know the culture of this. You should know the way this works. It's a parable to them because they don't know any better, right? Like I said, when I said a mansion, you think a mansion, see, to the average person thinks a mansion's a big house. But a mansion is an add-on to a house. That's why when he says in my father's house there are many mansions, he's not saying everybody's going to be out here with their own property, 40 virgins, all this stuff that, not, by the way, wasn't just a Muslim thing. That was something that was started by the Pope and those who were doing the stuff in the Crusades. Go fight for us in the Crusades, and all the women, you'll get to be in heaven. All the men, you get to have as many wives as you want out here. That's not what that was talking about, right? But see, if you're not in the culture, you don't comprehend it, right? So it's not for everybody to know the mysteries, and that's why once again you have to know the culture. I could teach and I've been teaching for as far as in front of people, I've been teaching since I was 6 years old, right? But as far as on social media, I've been teaching what, 10, 11, 12 years now, something like that. I can teach till I'm blue in the face. If you don't comprehend the culture, you'll miss it every time. Some people think that I'm blasphemous because I would tell you I don't worship God, but you don't know that God is not even it's not even an Israelite title. Why would you even use it? Well, it's just a title. Yeah, it's somebody else's title, and it's talking about who they worship. Why would you worship who they worship? I say firmament is not right because firmament is tied to Uranus or Uranus, right? It's a deity, it's a Greek deity. Why would you worship Uranus or firmament? Called it require, but some people say, "Oh, I don't know." See, you're wrong, but you're not willing to learn culture. It's not for everybody to know the mysteries. This is why I said, "Let those who have an ear hear." The ear is not just what's glued to your head, so to speak, not what's attached to your head, right? The ear is what's attached to your spirit and to your heart. So that being said, I apologize once again. I've been trying to put this stuff up on the screen. I will say a number if you want to text us to get more information. I'll say this number 5 times, and then and it's getting even noisier as I'm over here. So I will text this 5 times, and then I'm going to roll out. It's 202-599-7312. You can text us at this number. Once again, 202. Oh, thanks, babe. 202-599-7312. There it is. Thank you for pinning that as well. 202-599-7312. Again, I say 202-599-7312. Last time, that's 202-599-7312. Thank you all for being on. As always, it's our pleasure to be on. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish. Not A and D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. We thank you guys so much for being on today. We appreciate you. We will not be on TikTok this evening. We'll be on YouTube only. So at 7 p.m. Eastern New York time, we'll be on Patreon. 7:45 p.m. Eastern New York time, we'll be on TikTok. Those who have class, 8:30 p.m. we'll see you for crypto. 9:15 we'll see you for marriage. And if we and Sovereignty 1, Sovereignty 3 people from last night, we'll do a recording in the middle of the day, and we'll make sure that gets out to you. Okay, please look out for the announcements that are coming on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, etc. We appreciate you. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi. Oh, I'm sorry. Please check out my wife, the Honorable Maya, on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. You can also find her at Bloom and Flourish too. Thank you all for being on. As always, this has been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time by being a voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again. Please remember, as always, yourself, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you're fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shalom.